myself again. But it's the only way.
Good evening and welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith. It is match day live. It is Newcastle United versus Manchester City at the City Ground. And to be honest, I hope all the lads have been to church before tonight's live show, because we all need it. We need to say a few Hail Marys or pray to God or pray to Allah. We need to pray to somebody, because really looking at the side, I don't expect anything other than a Newcastle United defeat tonight. But as always, I'm joined by an illustrious panel. We've got Chris here, we've got Al-Walid, we've got Pete, we've got Martin, and we've got Shane, Sean or Simon, depending on what the lads want to call him tonight. Welcome lads, good to see you. First of all, did you all have a good Christmas? Chris, first of all, you seem to still have your party hat on from your crackers, Chris.
Yeah, still got going to the crackers. Like, I got two I had to choose from, either this or the purple one. I thought this would be more in the line with the Newcastle kit. So yeah, I had a good Christmas. Still down here in East Sussex. Visited the. I recreated the Battle of the Norman landings yesterday. Went down to Norman's Beach and stormed the beach. And that was my Christmas festivities for the week.
Very good. Okay, we'll come back to you in a minute. Al-Walid, how are you, mate?
Great. Excited
Good.
for the game.
Excited, maybe is not the word I would use, Al-Walid, but good to see you. I mean, do you do anything for the festivities in Saudi? Forgive my ignorance, but I'm not sure, whether you would celebrate it, or do you do anything, or is it a separate occasion for you?
No, actually, we have the spirit, the New Year, end of the year spirit also. So we have a passion for it.
Okay, good stuff. We'll come back to you soon as well. Pete, good evening.
Evening, how are you?
Very good, mate. Did you have a good Christmas? Was Santa good to you?
Always. Great Christmas. Just with the family this year. Obviously, circumstances meant that we couldn't do what we normally did, is get everyone together. But great day, fantastic day. Even better Boxing Day, but soon to be ruined somewhat.
Yeah, no, I know exactly how you feel. Martin, good evening to you, mate. I don't need to ask whether you had a good time, mate, because obviously on our WhatsApp group you were still going strong at 5-12 when I bailed out. What good day, mate, with the family?
Yeah, it was lovely, mate. Obviously, I'd say back home a little bit tougher for my sister, because obviously Mum wasn't there. So first one with her not being there, obviously with things going on, but. Yeah, it was nice. We had a few people from the south of Ireland couldn't get up because of restrictions. But yeah, I was still going till about 10-2 this morning, and then wisely wrapped up. So suffering a little bit this morning, but all good now. But yeah, not looking forward to this.
No, definitely not. Shane, I hope you're well, mate. Did you have a good day?
Yeah, it was all right, actually. We're in tier 4, so it was just me and the missus. So it was pretty shite, actually.
I'm waiting for.
I'm going to get booted off the internet in a minute.
I was waiting for a vase of flowers to come flying across the screen there, that's what you're a brave.
It was a good dinner, and I really enjoyed my day, mate. It was a really good day.
Good stuff, mate. Well, you haven't been poisoned, so she's obviously a decent chef, unless you were cooking the dinner.
No, I couldn't attempt that. We won't be in hospital.
Pete, just a quick one for you there, Pete. Toon fan really loved your rendition on the 12 Days of Christmas. He said it was like watching Axl Rose.
I'll take it. Not the best.
Evening to Laura, who sometimes joins us on Ladies' Night and on Match Day Live. She says, her usual misplaced optimism has plunged to an all-time low. I think we're all feeling that a little bit before the kick-off, but you never know. So, Chris, let's look at the lineup with you first of all. And here it is, a rather strange lineup. Carl Darlow in goal, no surprises there. The rest of the team, wow. Yedlin, Shaw, Fernandez, Clark, Richie, Hayden, Longstaff, of the Matty variety. Murphy, Almiron and Joe Linton. So on the bench we've got Gillespie, Carroll, Gale, Callum Wilson, Lewis, Kraft, Manquillo, Sean Longstaff and Anderson. So Chris, what do you make of that lineup tonight?
It's a bit of a dog's breakfast, you know. I don't quite Christmas pudding. It's very kind of hard to figure out what the tactics are, what the shape is. You know, normally you can expect Bruce to play against the top five and like a five at the back. Anything other than that would surprise me. And who knows where the goal's coming from? You know, this is like Matty Longstaff leading the attack, and with Joe Linton, I don't think anyone at the beginning of the season had Matty Longstaff to Joe Linton partnership in the cards, and you miss players like you know, obviously you have Wilson on the bench, no Fraser, and I just kind of don't see if there was any hope against Man City. I don't see. I think you feel hopeless with this lineup the way that Steve Bruce is put together.
Yeah, it's a strange lineup, all right. I think good point by Mark Byers that only 2 weeks ago, Chris, Bruce said that Joe Linton doesn't enjoy playing up front alone. Today he's picked him to play up front alone. It is a strange lineup, and Wilson on the bench. You know, if he's fit to play, you should play him.
Yeah, exactly. You and I were talking just before we went live, and I was sort of like saying, what's the point of having Wilson on the bench? You know, if he's fit, throw him in there. If you're trying to keep him healthy through a tough festive period, and you've got Liverpool coming up, and you're trying to give him a rest for Liverpool. You know, he gives us our best chance to win against any club. So he'd be the first person on my team sheet every week, unless he was not fit, and he seems to be fit, so he should be starting.
Okay, thanks, mate. Al-Walid, it's a strange lineup tonight. It really is. I think we're all scratching our heads. You know, sometimes you wonder what Steve Bruce is playing at. Some people seem to think this is Steve Bruce attempting to get sacked.
Actually, it's information. Same last game against City in August. It was 5-0. Same formation, but different weird choices for the players, especially Joe Linton and Matty, as Chris said. Joe Linton, I don't know. If you want to make Wilson relax, or because he did difficult games, but Dwight Gale, at least you know how to position himself. You expect something from him. Matty, I just read before the show some tweets. I think a tweet by 360, I think. It says, "Is it?" They were asking the people. It's look like we're putting Matty, Steve Bruce putting Matt's staff under the bus, because we just waiting him for so long. When he will be on line up, and he put him in the difficult game so far. I don't know. Maybe this will get us draw. Who knows?
Optimistic, Al-Walid. That's what I like to see when Daz isn't here. At least one person feeling optimistic. Over to Pete for a bit of realism.
Look, I expected changes. I have to be honest. You can see kind of what he's going for. He was always going to play five at the back against Man City. It was always going to happen. You can see he's gone for legs in the middle. With Matty Longstaff and Isaac Hayden, guys that can get up and down for 90 minutes. He's gone for the sort of the pace and the organisation down the wings, the wing backs with Yedlin. I think he would have probably gone with Lewis if he hadn't been so suspect recently defensively. But what you get with Richie playing on the left-hand side as a leader. And that's exactly what we need in this team at the moment. We've talked about it over the last few games. We're missing that leader to really kind of galvanise the team. Big and strong in the middle with a back three. The only disappointing thing for me, based on this lineup, because we expect to change anyway, the biggest disappointment with me is having Joe Linton down the middle. Mark Bayer said it best with regards to Bruce saying we've learnt from our mistakes. He shouldn't be playing as a one. That's exactly what he's done today. Like us as Newcastle fans wouldn't remember what he said just a week ago or a couple of weeks ago. It's madness, and that's the only really disappointing thing, because actually what we do have either side of him is genuine pace, and that's the one thing which is Man City's Achilles heel. They don't like defending pace. So what I would have liked, okay, Wilson's not going to play all the games. I would have played him tonight, rested him against Liverpool, and then played him against Leicester. That's what I would have done. If you're going to rest him over this period of time, I'd have done it that way. However, if you're not going to play Wilson, you play Gale, because Gale's going to give you that pace down the middle, and you've still got a natural goal threat. So that's the biggest disappointment for me, is that he's gone with someone that's just going to stand there, not really do much running or tracking or pressing, but he's just going to try and hold the ball up. He's got a donkey's touch, so it's not like he's going to hold it up and do anything positive with it. So what's the point in playing him there? It's just an absolute waste of a position, and I'm sure we'll see that come 8 o'clock.
Yep. Okay, Pete. Good evening, Chris.
Evening, lads. Sorry I'm a bit late.
No worries, mate. Did you have a good Christmas?
It was fantastic. Yeah, really good. Did you all have a good one?
Yeah, all good, mate. All very good. About to be ruined though on Boxing Day night, I feel. Not sure if you've seen the lineup yet, but it's a rather strange one, Chris. Pick the bones out of that.
Yeah, it is a strange one. Well, I say strange. I mean, to be honest, we were all expecting 5 at the back, weren't we? And obviously Hayden's gone into centre midfield, which probably isn't such a bad thing, even though on the last show I said I do prefer him at centre back, which I stand by. But at least he'll give us a bit more grit in the middle, and it's nice to see that Sean Longstaff's finally been dropped. So I'm happy about that. Interesting to see how Matty performs tonight. As Pete's just been saying then, which I caught the end of, I really don't understand why Gale's not playing. We need someone who's really going to push, City, and hopefully, cause City a few problems at the back. I can't see Big Joe doing that, so that's disappointing. But yeah, really, lads, it's a typical Bruce lineup, isn't it? I wasn't really expecting anything else other than that 5-4-1. The only real disappointment, as I say, for me, is that Gale's not playing, because I really think he should be. On a positive, I'm pleased Aguero isn't starting, because he normally has a field day against us, as we all know. Mahrez being out's a good thing. I really rate Mahrez, and I think he causes all kinds of issues. But that Ferran Torres is pretty handy, isn't he? So it'll be interesting to see, how much they really push us. But for me, it's going to just be a case of keeping the goal scored or the scoreline down as much as possible. Sorry, I was just laughing because I've just seen Bruce is on live now, so it'll be interesting to see what he's saying, because I just can't see anything other than, it sounds mad. I think if it finished 2-0, I think I'd take that. I really would, because I'm expecting 3, 4, 5, 6.
Well, I know Martin is listening to Steve Bruce, as he often does for us, so are you? No?
I actually didn't, because I get that pissed off listening to him. I'm already going to ruin me Boxing Day, and I'm not listening to him.
Fair enough. He looks very serious. He looks as if he means business. He looked great with a mask on, by the way. But yeah, Martin, I mean, you always try to be positive at the start of a match, but it's very difficult when you're going in against a team like Man City. When you look at the results that we've had down there in recent seasons, when you look at the form that Newcastle United's in, when you look at the team that Steve Bruce has picked tonight, I really don't see how anybody can see anything than a defeat, and a comprehensive one at that.
Yeah, I'm glad to see Shelby's not in it, but I think Mark was right. I think Chris was right talking about Wilson. For me, you play your best players. So for me, why is Wilson not playing? Is the guy not an athlete? Does he not train? Does he not, is is he not fit enough to play? Because surely a guy of his age and fitness is able to play 35, 36 games a season. So, you know, our 8-goal striker we stick on the bench. Okay, we're probably not going to have a lot of chances against City, but surely when you do get a chance, you want somebody like a Wilson or a Gale as opposed to Joe Linton. So for me, it doesn't make sense. I think Hayden and I get the back five, but I think Hayden and Longstaff are going to have their work cut out for them. I don't think that Matty will, even though he's probably got fresher legs, I don't think that he'll or Hayden will have much opportunity to get forward. Because if you look at City, they've got Ferran Torres up front, they've got Silva, De Bruyne, and Sterling as a three, you know, and they've got Gundogan and Rodri just sitting in behind. So even if we get through that midfield by some grace of God, they've got two CDMs sitting just right behind the three who can not only play good ball and get forward. So I can't see where we're going to get our forward ball from to get any support into Joe Linton. I think Almiron and Murphy, okay, outlets on the wing. But again, I don't think they're going to get ball to get up there. So I can see them spending more time back. So I think Chris made a good point. I think it's damage limitation. If it kind of was 1 or 2-0, you'd take it. But I think if we get a couple of goals down early, then I could see it being a landslide, unfortunately. Yeah,
me too. Just to cheer you all up, guys, Chris, people are asking what is that on your head, Chris, for starters. Just if we can just clear this up. Is it some kind of... Is it a Christmas hat? Is it a fez which is broken at the top or something? Or can you just explain to the viewers what exactly you're wearing?
Yeah, it's just a Christmas cracker.
It is a hat.
Yeah,
it is a Christmas. People are saying you look like some kind of warrior. It's
my Rambo look.
It's your Rambo look. Okay, fantastic.
Yeah.
Here's the lineup for Man City. I think they've been quite kind to us leaving Aguero out, to be honest. But I mean, you look at the bench, you look at the starting lineup, and you just see goals. And Sterling can do the job on his own. De Bruyne are in there as captain, who strokes the ball around. I mean, you know, I still don't think Man City got their defence right, but there again, they're only facing Joe Linton, so they don't really need to get the defence right today, Chris. But that's our lineup today. That they were facing today, mate. It's an impressive one, isn't it?
Yeah, and I was also going to say it's so I don't play with my hair the whole time in the show.
Oh, right, okay. Well, that's a good idea.
Yeah, you know, God, Matty Longstaff, save us, great.
Yeah. Yeah, I noticed you just completely ignored that. Ignored the Manchester City team, so that's your way of dealing with it. Al-Walid,
Yeah.
the Man City team. What's your take on that? It's impressive, isn't it? This could be a look into the future for us, Al-Walid. This could be our team after the takeover. Oh, you're on mute, Al-Walid.
Spenny.
Hopefully much better we will
Thanks,
have, inshallah, hopefully. I think there is no... I'm not sure about Torres. He's new to me. Torres, he's a striker? Or he's a...
Yeah, he's a striker,
Torres.
Yeah.
He's very good.
So...
Yeah, he's good.
Because I'm still optimistic. Hopefully, something good will happen.
It's to be honest, when you look at this team, and you look at Newcastle's team, it's just, you know, as I keep saying, I don't understand anybody having any optimism. I mean, that in itself tells you where this game's going to go. And Shane, it's going to need a miracle for Newcastle to get anything out of this with that team that they've picked and with the substitutions that they've got.
Steve, I'm fucking nervous, and I'll tell you why. Like, the last time we played Man City, I think it was last year in the FA Cup quarter-final, and it was just an embarrassment. We didn't get out of our own half. I think Steve Bruce came out today, and I'm paraphrasing a little bit, and he said Newcastle United should be happy, or this is like they should be happy because they're in the bottom half of the table. I think I'm paraphrasing a little bit, or that's where Newcastle United are right now, which says it all, really. I know that Cole Walker's out. I know that Jesus is out, and with the fixture congestion coming up as it is, I know that we were going to have to rotate the team a little bit. It's a difficult one. I don't feel for Steve Bruce whatsoever. In the choices that he made, you showed the lineups just a minute ago. Gal isn't even on the sub bench, is he? So he's not even been.
No, Gale is on. Yeah, he is there. He is on the subs bench.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if we'll use them or not. We've got Liverpool coming up in a few days. Then it's Leicester. Then it's Arsenal. I think any realist would say if we come out of this by losing 2 goals, then that's a good result. I think it's going to be more. And I think if Man City come out and they're actually up for this, it's going to be 4, 5, 6. It doesn't matter if Man City had their third team out, their under 23s out, it wouldn't make a difference here. We're going to get absolutely tonked, and it's going to be a bad watch. I'm not really optimistic about this one, if I'm being honest with you, pal.
Yeah, no worries. Go on, Chris. You've just contacted us in the chat there. Yeah, go on about the Man City lineup.
Yeah, obviously, as some of the other lads have said, keeping Aguero out. We've obviously been torched by Aguero in the past, but Man City is so deep that they could play like a second 11 and have no starters from like the previous week, and give us a throttling. So top to bottom, as you said, they've got the deep pockets to, and they've got the championships to have the pedigree to bring in anyone. Obviously, in the off season, they weren't able to bring in Messi, but they play as if they wouldn't even need Messi to be like a top club in the world. And as you said, that's what Newcastle with a new ownership would aspire to. They've always been the model club that new owners would see as the way to take Newcastle quickly to the top, and hopefully we get there next year.
Yeah. Chris, your take on that Manchester City lineup?
Do you know what? It's a great lineup, isn't it? I mean, City have been a bit mixed, haven't they? Sometimes they turn up and the world beaters, and then other times, they disappoint. But thankfully for all City fans, if you're watching, you're coming up against a very poor Newcastle side today, unfortunately. So they're going to be obviously very optimistic. I mean, obviously the biggest weak spot I can see straight away is that Nathan Aké's playing left back, and obviously, as we know, he's a left-sided centre back. So you'd think Bruce would be like, maybe Jacob Murphy can cause him a few problems this evening. I'm not sure. Gundogan, fantastic player. Probably near the latter stages of his career, but he's still way above anything that we've got. I've always really liked Rodri. He's a big, tall lad, very strong, very dominant. So Matty Longstaff's going to have to be really at it today. And when you see the three behind Ferran Torres, with Silva, De Bruyne, and Sterling, it's really petrifying, isn't it? And not only that, you look at the bench and they've got the likes of Aguero, Fernandinho, Mahrez, Foden, all game changers. And I suppose it's just one of those, isn't it? I mean, the one thing about Newcastle, which I'm sure you'll all agree, is we're unpredictable. And you just never know. And it would be typical of Bruce to, somehow magic something today. Obviously, deep down, I would love to see it. It'd be great. But yeah, I'm not very hopeful. But let's see. He's got 5 at the back, and you know what? This is one of the games where, and I said it under Rafa, you can't moan about going 5 at the back away to Man City. Got no issues with that whatsoever. You go 4-4-2 against Man City, they'll tear you apart. So these kind of games, the way we set up, absolutely, this is right. But let's see what happens.
Yeah, Pete, Steve Bruce in his pre-match interview there described the fans' histrionics. He described it, fans' feeling towards recent performances, including the Brentford Cup exit. Histrionics, Pete, is that what it is?
No, well, he's just a joke, isn't he? He also labelled it ridiculous about all the hype and all the talk that's come out after the Brentford game. So basically he's saying that the stick that he's been getting on the back of it is ridiculous. That's what he's referring to. No, he's just a joke. He's just, he's just batting things away, making excuses. this is why I get frustrated listening to his talks, because he gives us nothing of interest. Really, look, we're the fans. We're the ones that watch the games for 90 minutes. We're the ones that follow the players. We're the ones that listen to his talks and what he has to say. Most of the time, it's a load of rubbish. We know what we're on about as a fan base. We know that it's not good enough. We know that this set of players are not playing to their potential, and we also know that he's responsible for that. And the sooner that he realises that, and the sooner he starts making changes for his own benefit, not just the benefit of the team and the club, but for his own benefit, the better it will be for everybody. He needs to start taking some responsibility, because he always puts it back on the fans or whoever else, apart from himself. But he knows deep down that he's responsible for this. And he's got a few games now to really try and make a difference. Otherwise, we will come calling for him big time. He thinks this week after the Brentford game was big in terms of the negative publicity against him and his performances. If he puts in performances like we've seen over the last 4 or 5 games in the next 3 games, and we get hammered, we're going to come for him big time. And there'll be serious questions need to be asked about how we go into the new year, whether we continue with him or with somebody else. Because you can already see other managers around the Premier League that, their jobs. You're talking about, Roy Hodgson today after a really poor performance against a 10-man Aston Villa. There's already question marks out there. There's not a lot of managers out there. So as an ownership, we need to be looking around, and we need to be thinking, okay, do we make the decision now, or do we wait? If we wait too long, some of the managers that we would want to have come to the club won't be there. It's as simple as that. He mentioned about Callum Wilson having a knock. I think that's a load of rubbish. It's just an excuse. If he's got a knock, don't put him in the squad. It's as simple as that. He's our most influential player right now. If he's got a knock, he's not in the squad. If he's rested him, just come out and say that he's rested him. Just be honest. And again, it's just more bullshit from him. And this is why he infuriates me. But going back into the Man City team, it's as I said before. We needed pace to get at their defence, because that's where we've gotten in. None of this tippy-tappy football from us today, because they'll out players. They'll out passers, they'll out runners, they'll out everything with us. What we need to do is go more direct and get players in attacking positions where you've got balls into the channels, balls over the top, and you've got genuine pace running onto it, because those guys are going to give it up today. If we have enough attacks, or we have enough of the ball in attacking areas, they'll give us opportunities, that defence. But it's all about our mentality as a team. Again, I'm right with Chris here. I'm quite happy to play 5 at the back, but it's how you play it. Rafa Benitez played it in a way in which we were hard to break down, but we also carry the threat going forward. Okay, under Steve Bruce, we carry no threat whatsoever playing 5 at the back. So it's all about how you play. So if you're going to play 5 at the back, fine, but you can't just concede possession for 90 minutes of the game, because at some point you're going to get beat. Okay, we need to make sure we have an outlet, and that's why I said it's the worst decision he could have made today for himself and for the players by playing Joe Linton, because he's not going to give you that outlet going forward. All the balls are going to be into his chest, into his feet. There's going to be no spinning off like Wilson and Gale do, in and behind, into the channels. That's exactly what we want today. We want those guys to take the pressure off us. We're not going to get that at all. So we're now, again, putting the pressure on Almiron and Jacob Murphy, not only to do the work backwards, but also to do it forwards as well. And I just think, again, it's another poorly constructed team and bad decisions on selection. And it could come back to massively haunt us. Just to add, obviously, having Mahrez and Foden not playing is an absolute dream, because those guys will cut us apart. So, we need to take that positive and really go at them early doors and put some pressure on them.
Okay, the game has kicked off. We've all had a long period of chat there in that half hour. A lot to say when things aren't going well at Newcastle. And just get a quick prediction of everybody before I come to Martin. Chris, quick prediction, please.
3-0 Man City.
Al-Walid?
Draw.
Draw. Okay.
Yes,
Shane? 5-0 City. Chris?
4-0.
4-0, Pete.
Yeah, 4-0. 4-0 City.
4-0, okay. Well, I'm going for a 3-0 win for City. Martin, give us your prediction, and then just your take, I suppose, on Steve Bruce saying that it's histrionics.
Prediction, I'm going to go 3-0 City. I think to take Pete's point, I think just on the game, to have some kind of a threat, we have to be able to keep a hold of the ball. And the only histrionics that we have shown in recent games is we don't keep possession. So to have an attack, to have an outlet, to be able to play football, you need to, the first thing you need to do is be able to keep hold of the ball and have possession. And we don't keep possession. So therefore, I don't think we will keep the ball to have an attack. If you look at the last two management changes from Mike Ashley, he did them both in March. He brought Shearer in March. He brought Benitez in March after he got rid of other managers. So the one thing that we've seen is that he does sit and wait. I think it would be a completely different scenario if there were fans back in the ground, because I think Bruce's tenure would probably have been done and buried. And I think, we've spoken about it on the shows before, because there's no fans in the ground, he's getting away with it absolutely scot-free at the moment. And to have the contempt as the manager of my football club to go and say we're a team that belongs in the bottom half of the league, I'm sorry, that is just completely unacceptable from any manager that is a manager of Newcastle United Football Club. So I don't think Ashley will change things. I think, while it's quiet on the takeover and win the Christmas period, I can't see Ashley changing anything. I don't think anything will change. Even if we were to lose the next 2 or 3, I can't see Ashley changing anything until we've got a complete decision on the takeover. The only thing that's going to change that, we're 7 points off as of tonight off a relegation place with 2 games in hand. Yeah. Is he going to make a change? I doubt it. Steve Bruce, his comments are as bad as some of the pundits. The thing for me is he played, best parts of 16, 20 years under Alex Ferguson at Man United. And he says he doesn't really do anything on tactics. Did he not learn a fucking thing? Sorry, but did you not learn a thing all those years under Alex Ferguson? Probably one of the best tacticians and setup masters in of our generation, in that Man United team. And the guy to say, I don't believe in tactics, I think is it's disrespectful, not only to us as a team, to the players, but I think it's also fairly disrespectful to Alex Ferguson as well. But look, I can't see it changing. No.
Sorry.
No, nothing. But yeah,
I like that.
I think his comments were stupid. But look, we know what we're getting with him. I think his time is done from us. I think we've given him enough air, personally.
Can I just add to that, Steve? Just what Martin said. 'Cause I think he's made some really, really good points there. With regards to the management or the manager situation, you made a good point about the owners. If the takeover was to happen in January, early February, or whatever it is, we're in a difficult position anyway, because the managers that we would want in a takeover are probably already occupied at other clubs, and to pry them away halfway through a season is going to be really, really difficult. So I think anyway, we're going to need a manager that can hold the fort certainly till the end of the season. And there's not a massive amount of choices out there in the current climate, in the way that the club is set up currently. I think, there are a few managers out there. I've talked about the fact that I would really like Eddie Howe. I think he would improve us. He would improve this squad of players currently. He would make us better in the way in which he sets up his teams. He makes us more attacking, and I think he would suit the likes of Almiron and St. Maximin. And look, there are other managers out there, a couple of other managers out there as well, but he's the only one really I can see. We could maybe attract a slightly high-profile manager with a takeover, but you wouldn't want them to go all out and get a brand new manager in January anyway, because the managers that we probably want are at other clubs, like I've already said, and you'd want to wait until the summer and really, really start the project from the beginning, a new season, a fresh start with a fresh manager, fresh ideas that has the window to bring in a fresh new lot of players. But so that's why I'm saying that there's a window right now There's a window right now that Mike Ashley and Lee Charnley could really kind of make a decision and try and improve things now, to the point where we've got a decent gap at the moment. We've got a decent gap between us and the bottom three. And we need to try and maintain that for as long as humanly possible. But the longer we continue with Steve Bruce, the bigger the opportunity is for those other teams at the bottom three or bottom four to close that gap. And that's the key. That's the massive, massive key right now.
Yeah, fair enough, mate. It was an interesting headline, Chris, in the Northern Echo one, which you probably won't have seen, but I'll share it. Steve Bruce says, "I've taken the Magpies forward." Now, when you bear in mind where we were at when Rafa Benitez was at the club, Chris, would you say that's an accurate statement? Chris?
We've talked about this a bunch, but Newcastle's average finishing position under Mike Ashley has been 13th. So to say that he improved anything when he finished 13th last year was just bog standard Newcastle under Mike Ashley. So to take Newcastle forward would be for sure top 10. We've talked about. A lot of critics will say that Newcastle fans are asking for too much, and we just want a club that tries. And we still don't have that under Mike Ashley. And we're not asking for Europe. Top 10 would be, an improvement under Bruce. And we're nowhere, despite having been level on points, top 10 in the season. We're nowhere near a top 10 quality side. And Bruce must have a different sort of conception of what forward means. No, absolutely not. He has not taken the club forward. We're stuck in neutral, as we have been most of Mike Ashley's tenure.
Okay, Al-Walid, it's an interesting statement from Steve Bruce. He's definitely got more front than Blackpool. He's got big balls to say that he's taken the Magpies forward since he became manager. Would you agree?
He have to say that. He can't say the opposite. No. Yeah, so expected to say this from him. Nobody will say I am doing backward.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, it's a good point. Shane, it's a strange statement. I mean, I know that newspapers have to come up with a headline and it could have been taken out of context, but he certainly hasn't taken them forward.
Yeah, by reading a headline like that is quite subjective. I don't know what part of he's taking Newcastle forward he means. The football that we're playing at the moment isn't really sustainable. We're facing on average about 25 shots a game. We're not having enough shots. And the luck's run out. I mean, there was luck there to a certain extent against Palace. Then we got another win somewhere else, and then we got a draw against Fulham. I wouldn't really call that luck. It was just, probably was a little bit of luck. But just going on to what Pete said, really, I don't know at this point in time if you sack Steve Bruce, what managers are out there that are available to come in. I know one of the guys that follows your show, it came across the bottom of the screen. It said Ranieri. I don't think he's as good a manager as people think. I think it was Shakespeare at Leicester that did most of the work. I think he rode his luck a lot at Leicester. Eddie Howe, again, would he want to come into Newcastle the way it's being run right now? He could probably choose which team he goes to, and if Crystal Palace keep playing the way they are, probably goes there. I mean, I wouldn't want to manage Newcastle right now. But no, it doesn't look good. I think the only saving grace we have this season, there are teams that are a lot worse than us. You look at Sheffield United; they're not picking up points. I think Derby County finished on the lowest points of 13. And they're on course to pick up 4. So I think 20th place is sealed. Then you got West Brom. I can see them dropping. Then Brighton probably, but we're going to be there and thereabouts. I think the table lies to some extent. I mean, if you took the result after Fulham, We were on 18 points after about 12 games. If you times that by 3, by the games there are in a season, that puts us up at 56, which if you get 56 points to the end of the season, kind of puts you around Europe. So, I mean, if you look at it like that, I guess there could be a degree of optimism, but the table lies. I mean, we've got Man City today, can't see us winning, and then we've got Liverpool. It's going to be a struggle against them to pick up points. Leicester, can't see it happening against them. Arsenal, can't see us winning against them in the FA Cup, and then it's Villa, who are currently 6th. I can't see us winning there. So, apart from Sheffield United that's coming up, I can't see where the points are coming from, really. But going back to your original point of has Steve Bruce taken us forward, I think he was brought in to do a job for us, and the job that he's done is to keep us up. I think for him, finishing 10th would be an achievement. I think that's still on, but you can't compare what Rafa's done at the club to what Steve's done, because it's like comparing apples to oranges, really.
Yeah, no, I get that. That's fair. It's a fair point. We're 12 minutes into the game, and it is Manchester City 0, Newcastle 0. Possession, as you would expect, 69% towards Manchester City, 31% towards Newcastle, which isn't too bad, to be honest, compared to previous games. Chris Hall, the Bruce scenario, the way that he speaks to the media, some of the stuff he comes out with, I don't think that's been taken out of context, because we listen to him every week. We know what kind of stuff he says, and I think he genuinely probably does believe that he's taking Newcastle forward, because he'll be looking at the fact that we've just crashed out at the quarter-final stage of a cup again. We did last year. He'd be delighted with the position he got last season. And at this moment in time, I would say that the league position is something he's quite pleased with. But, it papers over the cracks when you look at these games that we've got over this Christmas period. That league position, which he seems to be quite comfortable in, could be something completely different by the time we get to New Year's Day.
Yeah, it's a tough one, really, to answer, because in many respects, I wouldn't say he's taken us forwards, but we have moved forwards as a club, because, all right, we shouldn't be paying 40 million for Joe Linton. I think we all appreciate that. But our squad has improved. So we've got the likes of Jamal Lewis, who I'm still, I know we've paid a lot of money out for him, 15 million. But I still believe there is a player in there, and he's probably low on confidence, but that's a different conversation. And we've got the likes of, Ryan Fraser on a free. We've got Callum Wilson for 20 million. We've brought in St. Maximin. Since Bruce has come in, we've brought in a lot of players, and the squad has moved on. Is that down to Steve Bruce? No. But, we have progressed as a team. Like, for example, if Rafa was to come in tomorrow, we would be in a far better position. Oh, no. Get rid.
What the tackle,
my God.
Man. Tackle!
Dear me, Manchester City 1, Newcastle United 0. 14 minutes on the 14 minutes on the clock. Catalogue of errors really there, and no wonder the Manchester City players are smiling, because they can probably sense blood now. And it was a move on the edge of the box. There's no need to look for VAR on this, to be perfectly honest. There was nothing wrong with that. There was definitely, for me, there wasn't an offside at all. And it was just Sterling turned our back four inside out, got past Richie with ease, and the ball was just stroked into the net. And the scorer...
Gundogan, I think.
Gundogan. Yeah, the back forward 6s and 7s. So easy, like a knife through butter. But anyway, continue, Chris.
Yeah, sorry. So, I mean, as a team, I think we've progressed in terms of what we've got available to us. Is Steve Bruce going to make any difference to that? No, because we've gone backwards in a playing style, and what we, how we perform on the pitch, we've gone backwards. But if you look at the league position, correct me if I'm wrong here, but we got to the points total that we did, what was it, after, say, 10 games, quicker than what we'd done since, was it 2012 or 2013? So we've shot up the table very quick, even though I don't particularly like that stat, because people say, oh, it's the best start made in 8 years, but you don't compare all the fixtures. So the fixtures are different, aren't they? So it's a bit of a funny one, that. But the squad now, as I was saying, if Rafa Benitez stepped in tomorrow, I would feel very confident that he would do a better job than what he did previously with us, Rafa, because we've got a better team for him to work with. We've got a better quality of squad. But in no way is that down to Steve Bruce, in my opinion. You know, playing wise and, you know, tactically and the way we set up, we've gone backwards. Anyone who says otherwise, you know, well, they wouldn't, because, you know, we're so disorganized, and, you know, it's just... Yeah, for him to say that he's moved us forward, he's going to say that because we've done well in a cup competition. And, you know, when you look at it on the scheme of things, yeah, we were in a quarter-final. We nearly got through to the semi-final. But when you actually look at the fixtures that we were involved in to get to that position, we scraped through every round. And if you look at the draw, we didn't come up against anyone. So, really, we were expected to get to the quarter-finals. And then when you find out who we got knocked out by, that makes it even worse. Because we should be in the semi-final right now, and we're not. So no, he's going to say that, obviously, but no, we haven't moved forward under Bruce whatsoever.
Okay, Pete, you know, no surprise to see Steve Bruce, as Al Walid says, defending his position at the club. But, you know, I think really, you know, we've talked about the histrionics quote. To say that he's taking the Magpies forward, you know, we're standing still. If not, we've gone back a little bit.
100% agree. If anything, we've moved backwards. Now, what I do, I always look back to Rafa Benitez, the last 5 or 6 games in charge, and the football that we were playing was entertaining. It was scoring goals as well as keeping it hard to beat. And I think that performance away at Fulham last game of the season typified that. All the players playing at their maximum, playing well. And he could have really built and developed on that, and we've not. We've you know, we've moved forward in one sense that we've signed different players, but the squad that we've got to choose from now is better. So for me, he should be moving forward. This club should be moving forward, and it's not. We're in terms of squad, in terms of player ability, we're in the strongest position that we've been in for quite a while now, and he's getting, you know, drab, boring, uninspiring performances out of this group of players, and you can tell by some of the, you know, the talks of the frustrations that have been going on, you know, behind the scenes. And, you know, if he'd have won that game Tuesday night, he could have had an argument for taking us forward, because we'd have been in the semi-final, and they could have pulled out all the semi-final stats and the fact that we'd not been to a semi-final for God knows how long, blah 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 blah, and he could have had that to back that up. And he's ruined that himself. Okay, he threw that away, just due to poor management, and not having those players ready and set up to win that game. And you could tell. I don't know if anyone listened to the Simon Jordan on TalkSport, the little snippet that he had, talking about the quarter final. And even he couldn't defend Bruce, and you could tell in the way he was talking, he really wanted Bruce to win that game. And even, like, you know, he wanted him just because he wanted him to have that justification. He wanted him to have that justification that he, you know, that he'd been and taken to Newcastle for the semi-final, and it was against Brentford, and they were a championship team. And even he said himself, he was like, when he saw the result, he was like, oh, Brucey. They were the words that he used, oh, Brucey, you should have won that one. And even he knows, you know, and a lot of the media have gone quiet this week after that defeat, because a lot of the media knows that actually, you know, we are justified in what we're saying, because everything that we've been saying about the way Newcastle have been playing, the performances we've been putting in, regardless of or win or lose, have not been good enough. And that performance on Tuesday night was not good enough. And that lies with the manager, because he had the players to choose from, the selection of first team squad, first team 11 on that Tuesday night, and they still didn't turn up. I'm sorry, that sits with the manager. It has to. And so, you know, if we'd have won that on Tuesday night, that would have given him a bit of grace. That would have given him the 3-game grace over Christmas. He wouldn't have got as much stick if we'd have won that and took us to the semi-final. The fact that he didn't, is not only put pressure on him in the last week, it's going to put massive pressure on him now. He has to pick up a result in the next 3 games. He has to pick up. In fact, I put 4 games, because you've got the FA Cup game against Arsenal, and Arsenal are now winning and looking confident again. So he has to get a result in these next 4 games. And if he doesn't, as I've said to you before, serious questions need to be asked about his management and where he's taking us forward. Because at the moment, and for a long time, he hasn't.
Yeah, okay, Martin. As Manchester City breached Newcastle's rear guard again, they hit the bar a couple of minutes ago. There, I mean, it looks already, Martin, as if we've chucked it. But just talking about Steve Bruce, we're finishing off on this little section. Bruce have taken the Magpies forward. What's your gut feeling when you read something like that?
I think there's a few things. I know there's probably some fans listening and going, I hate the comparisons to Bruce and Rafa, and we tried to disperse with them a good while ago, and we hounded out pundits to say, will you stop, comparing Bruce to Rafa, blah blah blah. Oh, that was a good
VAR, is it?
No, it's a clash of heads.
Yeah,
it was actually half decent defending.
It's Kieran Clark down on the ground, I think, is it?
I think so, yeah. City queuing up here, though, again.
Yeah, it's like an exhibition game for them.
Like, we have a back 5 there, and they're in a line horizontally from the edge of the box to the front of the box. Like that, surely that's basic, lads. Someone lead the line. But I think that if you look at the difference is for me about Bruce saying he's taken the club forward. I don't, for me, he hasn't. So if you compare players, okay, take Joe Linton aside, right? 40 million, whoever signed him was on drugs or had obviously got a leg over with the missus the night before and got lucky and whatever happened and went out and signed Joe Linton. Rafa got Joselu, all right? Bruce has got Callum Wilson, 20 million striker, proven England goal scorer, 8 goals already this season. So even if you compare the two players, there's no like for like. The difference for me is with the players that Rafa got, what he did was he identified their strengths and he identified where he could play them to their best of their ability in that 11 or in the squad setup that enabled him to put out the best team cohesively that he could with the pieces. Like a chessboard, he was able to play a very dynamic team that sat well back as a 5, but they could counterattack, and they counterattacked at the right time because he guided them from the start of the 90 minutes to the end of the 90 minutes. And he was permanently on the side of that pitch, pointing, sticking the finger up, moving players, pulling players back. So, we've not had any of that with Bruce. So Bruce got Callum Wilson, and I've seen some people on Twitter going, well, these weren't Bruce's players. They are Bruce's players. Right, Bruce got Wilson. He's got Jamal Lewis. He's got Fraser. Right, again, you go back to Rafa. He got Joselu. He got Atsu. Right, players like these. So Rafa did what he could with the squad. If Bruce was a manager that was able to take this club forward, he's got the players in Almiron, St. Maximin, Callum Wilson, Ryan Fraser. This is a much better squad now, in my opinion, than Rafa had. And Bruce is unable to take those players and work out what their weaknesses are, where their strengths are. Oh, this looks fairly serious, is it? I'll just hold on for a second. Joe, is that Ferran down, is it? Maybe not bad.
Clash. It was a
dead leg.
bad clash.
Yeah,
I mean,
Rodri.
there was nothing malicious in that at all. Like,
So I think the statement of Bruce has taken the club forward or taken Newcastle United forward is absolute nonsense. I take Al-Walid's point. Is he going to say anything different? No, of course he's not. If I'm in a job, I'm not going to say, by the way, boss, listen, I know I've had a year now, but like I'm doing really shit. No one's going to sit in an office and say that to their manager or to the board or whoever else. So I get that piece of it. But has he taken the club anywhere forward with the players he's got at his disposal? Absolutely not. But when you've got the likes of, Sutton and Savage, and in particular Jamie Hara over the weekend, or you've got all these pundits who are pals who are blowing smoke up his backside, going, he's doing a really good job, and He's doing great with the team, and he's really bringing Newcastle on. He's the man for Newcastle. It's no wonder he believes his own hype, because he's got people around him who are blowing that smoke up his hole and telling him, "You're doing a great job, Bruce." Whereas we're all sat here, a panel of 7, and we're going, "You're absolute shite." So if we can see it as fans, and I think that fans are more honest than any pundit out there, in my own personal opinion, because if we're playing well, we'll call it well. If we're playing crap, we'll call it crap. If Bruce was doing a good job, we'd gone through a cup run, he was motivating those players, we were getting the best out of that team. We might go to Man City and get beat 2-3-4-0. I'll accept that if we put effort in, if we maintain possession and we play them. It's when we don't do any of that, then he comes off the park and he goes, "Well, we're a bottom of the Premier League team, and we can only hope that we can do so well one day." Do you know what? Jog on, man. Jog on. But I'm sorry, he hasn't taken us forward, and he certainly won't be the man to take us forward. So it ain't going to happen, not under his watch.
Just quickly on that point, do you think it's Steve Bruce's fault that we're in this position, though, as a whole, or is it Mike Ashley's fault? I mean, you're paying a manager probably the lowest salary out of all the Premier League teams. And if you're paying someone that little, you're obviously going to expect some sort of shite in return.
I absolutely get that, Shane. But if I get this, you pay peanuts, get monkeys. I get that. For me, the overall is absolutely this team where we are now. What's happened to us as a club? There's only one person to blame, and that is Mike Ashley at the top. It starts with him. If you look at even some of the simple stuff, I think I put a tweet out there the weekend. Steve Bruce was talking about something, and then somebody said something about Ashley and he wants to do this, that, and the other, and Charlie. And I said, let's go back to when they had the runoff with the Chronicle, and it got into the courts, and it was proven that the club intentionally misled and lied to its supporters. That starts with Mike. Mike was the man that bagged the Chronicle going in there. They were the people that set up who went into the club, who came out of the club. He was the man that appointed Joe Kinnear. He was the man that brought in Allardyce. He was the man that brought in Shearer too little, too late, and did what he did. He's the man that's ultimately brought in Bruce. The only positive he had was he brought in Rafa, and we let the guy walk. So there's only one man. I get Bruce is what he is, absolutely. But Ashley, for me, is the one and only 100% person to blame.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I feel harsh with Steve in some ways, because I think he's only as good as he is good. That doesn't really make sense. But I think in his head, this is the biggest job that he's had and will ever have. I think after Newcastle, that's it for him. And I think in his head, he's doing okay. This is about as good as it gets for him. He's never won cups. He's never won leagues. So for him, finishing 10th or finishing 15th, getting to a quarter-final was really, really good for him. So I don't think feeling sorry for him is the right word, because he's probably on about $1 million a year. But in the same sentence, I think knowing the technician he is, which isn't a very good one, this is probably as far as he can actually take us.
Yeah, he's got limitations, absolutely. And listen, anybody sitting on this panel, be it Steve, be it me, be it Chris, be it whoever, anybody watching this, anybody turning up in the ground, and somebody said to you in 10 years' time, here's your chance, lads, manage your boyhood club, manage your team, you'd snap their hands off. So I don't blame the guy in taking his ultimate job. The problem I have with the appointment is it was Mike's appointment, but his track record. If Bruce had a track record at Sheffield Wednesday, Aston Villa, Sunderland, Hull City, where he's been that you've seen positive football, attractive front foot football that he promised, I'd say give the guy every chance in the world. The problem is every club he's been to, he's been absolutely dire. He's been sacked by every club he's gone to, and every club. If you read some of the press snippets, I think I put one up there from Hull City, his fallout with Ben Arthur. I put something up from Villa fans saying they were stagnating. It was boring football, 5 at the back, no possession. It's the same. It's just rinse, repeat with him. And look, he's got his childhood job. Tick the box. That's great. But
do you know what, Mark? You can't blame Bruce because
No, absolutely not.
Bruce is the pinnacle of his career. He's managing his boyhood club, or albeit, some people are skeptical as to how big of a Newcastle fan he is because he doesn't mention us. It's only there you go, Steve. Yeah, he hasn't mentioned us throughout his career. Obviously, he's got the Geordie accent. He manages Sunderland's, calls us a disgrace and lacking class. When when we played that music, which was fantastic, by the way, when we played that music when he was managing Sunderland, at the end of the game. But if someone's given him the opportunity to manage this club, he's going to take it. If someone said to me tomorrow, "Do you want to come and manage Newcastle?" I'd snap the hand off. I'm not qualified to do it. I'll probably be no good doing it. But I can't blame Bruce. But and obviously, like you've said, Martin, people are feeding him, going, "Oh, he's doing a great job. He's doing a great job." And as far as Ashley's concerned, if Ashley pulled him into his office tomorrow and had a look at the league position, he'd go, "Well done, Steve. You're doing a great job." Because we're staying up, aren't we? As things stand, we're staying up. If we were bottom of the table, Ashley would have a completely different stance on it. Will he have a completely different stance on it in 5 games' time? Based on what we're seeing now, we're not going to be, what are we now, 13, 14? Yeah. We're not going to be that in 5 games' time. No chance.
Yeah, I was going to say real quick, lads, if we were back 2015, 2016 with Steve McLaren and we had sacked him and not gotten Rafa, I think we would have been like a Sunderland. We would have gone down. We might have stayed down, at least in the championship. So I think the proper comparison. You don't compare Rafa and Steve Bruce, but you say if we had not gotten Rafa's legacy is leaving us a club that, while it wasn't going to challenge for the top 10, was solidly in a place to stay up. And so that, I think, is the proper legacy for whatever you want to say about Rafa, that the players that he left us, and that sort of the mentality that he kind of put into to change Mike Ashley's approach and to be able to spend the money after he left was put as a foundation by Rafa. And without Rafa, we would have been probably in a League One situation.
I'd agree with you, Chris. I would agree with you 100% there. I think, whoever persuaded Rafa Benitez to come to the club, and although I've got to be perfectly honest, I wouldn't give any credit to Lee Charnley whatsoever. I get the impression it was the right club at the right time for Rafa. Knowing his organizer, his team as I do, I think they probably approached the club and said, "Look, if there's a vacancy, we're interested, depending on what the terms and conditions are." And I think they probably approached them, much like Steve Bruce, as Neil McMillan points out, went to the club and asked for the job because nobody else would take it. Because Newcastle United under Mike Ashley is a poison chalice. It's a club that nobody at this moment in time under the current owner really wants to manage. It's a club everybody would love to manage under an owner who's got a bit of vision and a bit of money. But unfortunately, under Ashley, he's made it a poison chalice, and that's it. But yeah, Chris, it's a good point. Definitely have to agree with you on that. We're up to 34 minutes on the game, and surprisingly, only 1-0 to Manchester City. Newcastle currently pushing forward. Towards the Man City goal with Almiron in possession, and we'll stay with this. Yeah, just a wasted ball, lofted ball into the box, and easily cleared by Man City. And you just worry every time they come forward as they are now. Go. Perfect counter attack. Is it 2-0? No, great save by Darlow from De Bruyne. De Bruyne was through 1-on-1 with Darlow with the Newcastle defence tracking back, and great save, by player of the season, Carl Darlow. And I felt like asking you all for your man of the match at the start of the game, actually, lads, because I knew you would just say Carl Darlow. Because he's more or less run away with our Player of the Year award this year. Great save, fantastic save by Darlow. Al-Walid, thoughts on the game so far then, mate? It's 1-0 to Manchester City. It's pretty much as we expected. Man City, attacking at will. Newcastle, trying to defend in numbers.
A couple of points, actually. First thing, the goal, I don't know, it's like a rookie mistake. All the players, they were looking to the ball and ignoring the Manchester City players. Nobody was looking to the players. This is for the goal. And second thing, I wish if I see just attempt or attack to any ordinary, even if ordinary single attack toward Manchester City defense, but I don't know there is no player for it.
Yep. Okay, Alwali. Cheers. Deanie's asking how Matty Longstaff's playing. To be honest, the midfield aren't really getting a look in. Manchester City have a better midfield than Newcastle by a country mile, and yeah, he's running around a lot. He's putting a bit of effort in, putting more effort in than his brother has over the last few games. So I suppose if you're going to judge it by that, he's probably playing okay. But hard to judge in a game like this where Manchester City are getting so much of the ball and completely bypassing Newcastle's midfield. Shane, it's pretty much as we expected. Man City pushing on again, 36 and a half minutes on the clock, and it's still 1-0.
Yeah, just a quick one, Steve. I know you're quite close to the club. I mean, in January, have you heard anything about takeover going through, or any noises around that?
No, I mean it's pretty much in the hands of the lawyers now, Nick DeMarco, and obviously the fans consortium. It's quite clear now that the Premier League are rattled. The MPs are certainly doing their bit, as requested, and the Premier League are knocked. I think we've seen that on the 23rd of December. We saw the letter come from the Premier League to the Newcastle Fans Consortium. Pretty cheeky letter, threatening them, and they're rattled. They're certainly rattled. There's no doubt about it. So from our perspective, I think it's just a case of being patient. I think what we've mentioned on the show tonight is that we want Steve Bruce to keep Newcastle United up, and I think that's going to be the remit. And I think that takeover talk will still be on hold as we come into January. I think that there's no change as far as the buyers are concerned. They still want to buy the club, but it's in the hands of lawyers, Shin. That's it. It's as simple as that. So will we see any action in the transfer window? My understanding from people who I know at the club and from the from the buyer side is that it's in the hands of Mike Ashley, and loan buys, loan action is probably all we can expect. I don't think Steve Bruce is going to have a checkbook to use at will in January. It's going to be very much a case of make, do and mend.
But with Steve Bruce, do you think he's just in charge at the moment to ferry the storm while the takeover is going through? And do you think that's why he is there? Because he is a yes man?
Yeah, I do believe Steve Bruce was brought in for this reason, in the sense that there was one eye on a takeover, but you've got to bear in mind that Steve Bruce, he asked for the job. He basically was in contract at Sheffield Wednesday. Newcastle were, if you go back to it and go back through the press, Newcastle were in an embarrassing situation where they couldn't get a manager. Mm-hmm. Nobody wanted to come. We were knocked back by previous managers as well. So, it tells you the situation we were in. Steve Bruce then allegedly reached out and, he got the opportunity to take the job at the club on better wages than he was at Sheffield Wednesday. But yeah, I mean, I think even Steve Bruce admits that he's a stopgap here, and if a takeover goes through, then he's not going to be here for much longer. But the longer this takeover drags on, or the longer the takeover situation drags on, then the longer Steve Bruce is going to be in a job. Do I expect Newcastle to make any decisions if Newcastle lose the next 4 or 5 games, go crashing out of the FA Cup, start getting dragged right into the relegation battle? Do I think they'll make a decision? No, I don't. And Martin's already said, the last couple of managerial changes have been made in March, which was far too late. So I don't know. It's an awful situation to be in as far as a football fan's concerned. But it's what you come to expect. Life under Mike Ashley.
No, I think that's one of the things. But if you said to me now, if I had to stick with Steve for the next 18 months, but then the takeover's going through, would I be happy with that? And the answer would be yes. You got to touch the there. But yeah, I mean, I don't really mind how long Bruce is there as long as the takeover goes through, to be honest with you. As long as there's an end in sight, I think most Newcastle fans would feel the same about that as well. It doesn't matter when. It's just I just want the takeover to go through.
I think what makes it easier, Shane, is the fact that Newcastle fans aren't at the ground. We're sitting watching this on the TV. It becomes, when you have a season ticket, and I know a lot of fans watching this will probably understand where I'm coming from. But when you have a season ticket, then you're obliged to go to the game. And I think people will understand when I say obliged. But over the last 13 years, a lot of the games that we've all trudged up to St James's Park to watch, believe you me, we haven't felt like going to watch them. I've lost count of the number of times that maybe it's my dad or my brother or my friends who I sit next to have turned to us and gone, I could do without going here. Or my mates who I go and meet for a pint before the game, who will go, well, I've got to be honest, like if it's the same as last week, I'll be leaving at half time, or I'll be going before the end of the. People just have that mentality now, so it's probably made it easier. Being the supporter, not actually having to go and stand there and watch this. It's frustrating for me. I'd rather be at the game. It's made us appreciate us going to the games even more now. But at the same time, I know a lot of people will be happy with that, and it's probably helped Steve Bruce. Well, it has helped Steve Bruce because he would be getting the lickings of a dog from the crowd, which is very difficult for the likes of Lee Charnley and Mike Ashley to avoid. He's not getting that. He's getting, they just need to ignore what's online. They're not getting any stick in the press. The regular press guys aren't really attacking them. That's the first time I've seen some of the Steve Bruce fans and the media really have a pop after the Brentford game. But I mean, that's been a long time coming. But yeah, we're living in weird times at the moment. It's not, it's not normal. It's not normal atmosphere for football, and all of that will give Steve Bruce extra confidence to come out with stuff like he has, saying that he thinks that he's taking the club forward. I mean, maybe he does in this little COVID bubble. Maybe he does think he's taking the club forward.
Yeah, maybe. I think the only thing that's going to change that though is if Ashley's asset becomes devalued. So, if we can't get a hold of some decent, let's just say over the next 5, we lose this game, go out the cup and lose the next 4 in a row, while those teams below us pick up. So going into January, mid-January, early February, we are 17th, 18th. Do you think Ashley will do something then with Bruce to protect his asset? I seriously don't think he will. I think he will float around this until this takeover is either on or it's completely dead. I don't think he'll pull the trigger even if we were sat in 20th. If he knows this, he's got a chance of this deal going through. I think it's status quo, and I think he'll run the risk. I think he'll gamble with the club and hope that this goes through.
He doesn't care ultimately. He doesn't care what happens after he gets his money. When he gets his money, he's gone. And so he doesn't care what state the club will be in once that deal, hopefully, as soon as possible, goes through. So you're absolutely right. But you're absolutely right as well, Martin, that the longer this goes on and the more that we get dragged down into a relegation battle, it then starts to affect his investment because, I mean, there's a lot of talk about how, the potential deal has been renegotiated, how it's a little bit more than what it was originally agreed, and all the rest of that goes alongside it. How can you still in a COVID pandemic justify paying that sort of money to a club that could potentially be in the Championship? And the consortium could very rightly go back to the table and say, hold on, the club is now not the club that we negotiated 6, 8, 9 months ago. And that's where all the things could change. So, we know Mike Ashley's all about money. And when he's at risk of losing his money, he will make decisions whether he wants to or not. And that's why I believe that, we've been very lucky this season so far in that, yes, we've been lucky in the fact that we've got 18 points. But we've also been lucky the fact that the likes of Sheffield United have continued to lose. Yeah. West Brom have been leading in games and ended up losing. Fulham have had opportunities to win games and thrown it away. Brighton the same. We've been lucky that these teams have not picked up points, but it's not going to last forever.
Every team goes on a run.
Of course they do. And it could quite easily happen over the next 4 or 5 games where we've got games that are not necessarily winnable. and all of a sudden it all changes, and it all turns round. And you know, you would like to think that, like Steve said, they don't normally tend to make these decisions until sort of March time, and it has been too late previously. You would like to think that because he's got his investment to protect, that he would be a little bit more proactive this time and make that decision. And you know, the way in which the situation is now, it looks like we're only going one way. We had a decent points total to begin with, but it looks like it's starting to tail off, and I can only see us with the likes of Arsenal winning. You know, Leeds are playing well again. You got Villa playing well, Wolves. They're all picking up points. All that does is just drop us further down the table, and it's a massive risk. But look, I mean, it's not going to be a massive amount that Ashley's going to have to pay out. Let's face it. Steve Bruce is the least paid manager in the Premier League, and really Rafa Benitez was the only anomaly on that, because it was the same for Steve McLaren, and it was exactly the same for Alan Pardew. They were all the lowest paid managers in the Premier League on absolute pittance. So it's not going to be a massive thing that he's going to have to pay out in order to cancel Bruce's contract. And I don't think it would be massively expensive to get in someone to run the club until the end of the season. Because there's a lot of fans that are saying, "Oh, yeah, but would they stay long term with the potential takeover?" Blah blah blah. We're not asking them to sign a 2 or 3 year deal. We're asking them to take the club and to keep them in the Premier League and to keep them as high on the table as possible until the end of the season, and then we reevaluate the situation. You know, we either have a takeover and we can get the pick of the managers in European football, or we take stock. If we've still got Mike Ashley in charge, we see if the manager that's taken over has done a decent job. Does he continue, whoever that may be, or do we then, with other managers possibly being available in the summer, reevaluate it and have a look and decide to sign somebody else? We're giving ourselves the opportunity, but it's very, very clear that Steve Bruce isn't the guy to take us forward. And look, his luck's going to run out at some point. It could be the back end of this season. It could be next season. But at some point, he's going to have us right down there in a relegation battle. It's all a case of not if, but when.
The thing for me, like talking about a new manager,
half time, 1-0 to Manchester City. Welcome to Nathan. Yeah, go on, Nathan, mate.
No, yeah, just a comment on the. Good to be back first and foremost. Hope you all had a good Christmas day. I'm feeling
same to you, mate.
No, like just talking about the managers there. Like, I think it was well talked about the short list of managers and people that we couldn't get to come in and run the club. But I think one thing to consider with that is I don't think that was ever going to be a short list of managers like the caliber of Rafa Benitez. It's probably a short list of managers, that we had a very strict wage budget for. So I think I don't think he'd have been looking to spend any decent amount of money on a good manager, and that's probably why we maybe fell so far down that list to appoint Bruce.
Yeah, that's a good point as well, mate. Good point as well. 100%. Yeah. Okay, 1-0, half time. And I think a lot of people would have expected Newcastle to be further behind, but 1-0, it's damage limitation, certainly. So we're still in it if we're going to be looking on the positive side. Chris, with your Rambo hat on there tonight, give us your assessment of the first half, John.
Pretty much what we expected. I don't think any of us expected us to nick an early goal and to be hanging on. Quite some of us might have expected, an onslaught that we'd be sort of, it would be already over. We'd be rather optimistic to say that Newcastle could claw their way back in the second half. I just don't think we have the lineup out there, and I don't think Bruce will make the right substitutions to do that. So I think we're sort of like we're playing for like a respectable 1-0 loss, which would be better than I think any of us expected. Looking ahead to playing in the champions Liverpool next match, but stranger things could happen. Bruce has been sort of touched by the four-leaf clover of luck, and has been quite, good to get luckier results. And I'm not predicting this will happen this time, but I wouldn't be surprised if we're able to hold them to one goal, that we steal something. Snatch and grab, as you called it in the past. But I certainly don't think we're headed there. I think it's much more likely to be like a 3-0 loss, and that the first half was sort of the best we could hope for, and the second half was be sort of more reality smacking us in the face.
I quite like Jason Carter's nickname for you, Chris. John Rambling, walking everywhere instead of John Rambo. John Rambling. It's got a bit of a ring to it. I've got to ask you, Chris. Apart from the hat, what toy did you get out of the cracker that you got your hat out of?
I've got so far it's been 2 on point, because I've gotten two kinds of bottle openers. So it's been quite handy tonight.
Oh, so they're expensive crackers. Got to be Marks and Spencers or something. Definitely posh. They're not like the Co-op ones. You didn't get like a plastic comb, which is what I tend to get. Yeah,
no, my hosts are quite generous. So
no, that's good. You've got to say that, otherwise you'll be out on your ear. Al-Walid, first half, please. Give us your views on that first half. Matty Longstaff back in the team today. Has he done well?
So far, yeah. Actually, maybe you find my talk weird. I think it's better that we receive the goal. Let's make City put some brakes on.
Hold on, Al-Walid. Chris, is Chris all right? Can you just check in Chris's window? Is he okay? We've now gone into some kind of weird silhouette show. We're hearing crashing and banging. He's wearing a strange hat. I'm wondering whether he's got some kind of problems. What on earth is he doing? What is he doing? This is like some kind of carry-on show, this, with Chris. I've never seen him like this.
What happened?
He's broke something. He's broke something. I don't know what it is.
He's had enough, Eddie. He's had enough.
I think there must have been some kind of submachine gun fire which has come in. It's like he's trying to live the part of John Rambo by jumping into the camera and that. Yeah.
Good. I thought I said something very funny.
No, carry on, Al-Walid. I'm going to put. He's right.
trying to hold up these two bottle caps. This is what I got out of my crackers.
I'm going to start. Thanks for that. Yeah, I'm going to start showing this to Boris. Might send this little short clip to Boris Johnson to show him the effects of lockdown, Chris, on someone who was relatively sane. Someone who was relatively sane when we started NUFC Matters. It turns you to drink and makes you jump all over the place. Yeah. Okay, Al-Walid, back with you.
I think it's good that we receive a goal, unfortunately, because this makes City a little bit relaxed. They're trying to just show off some skills with this rainy field. Maybe it's kind of remind me of Tottenham game when we steal a goal last minute. Hopefully something similar happen.
Al-Walid, Dini wants to know, have you got any inside info on the takeover?
Do I have what?
Any inside information?
Actually, no, that's not at the moment.
Okay, thanks for that, Al-Walid. Shane, first half analysis, please. I'm sure it'll be better than Steve Sidwell's on BT Sport.
Oh, absolutely. It's very much how I expected it. We've got about 25% possession. We've had one attempt on goal, but no shots on goal. If you told me we won it at half time, I would have bitten your hand off, really. I mean, it could have been 2 or 3. Caldalo's made one great save. One's come off the bar. Kieran Klopp's gone in for a header, which might have gone in. We haven't created much, which I didn't really expect us to either. I think their squad out there at the moment is probably worth about 300 million. I was worth probably a third of that. So yeah, I mean, as long as we're still in the game, even if we've got 5 minutes left, then I would take that. I generally thought it would be 4 or 5-0. So to keep it down to 1 at half time, it's not looking too bad. I think in terms of creativity to hold the ball up front, we probably need to bring Dwight Gale on. I think that change will probably come on the 70th minute or around that sort of time, and that's when Steve likes to make most of his changes. But yeah, I'm quietly confident of the 1-0. At 1-0, anything's possible. I mean, if we look at the game at White Hart Lane, it was 1-0 up until the 93rd. So yeah, pretty happy, Steve. All in all, can't really complain too much.
It comes to something when we're happy being 1-0 down. That's the Mike Ashley effect, Nathan, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I mean, like what I expected coming into this game, I expected something similar to the way we were knocked out of the cup last season to Man City, where it was just probably one of the worst performances I've ever seen in terms of just conceding in every area of the pitch, conceding the game to them and giving them too much respect. I think we've gone into this game today, we're still showing them too much respect. We looked to start somewhat lively. We got the ball down there and then got across into the box really early on. So you thought maybe something a bit different. We're going to see something a bit different today. But yeah, it's been more of the same. We've given them too much respect. But we do that when we play anyone. Like in the last few games against Southampton in particular, we showed them so much respect. It was like we were playing against Barcelona when we played against Southampton. So for me, it is disappointing to see, because you look at the last few games City have played when they drew with West Brom in particular. I think they beat Fulham as well. But in those two games, Fulham and West Brom really took the game to Man City. They made them earn the points on those days, and yeah, it just shows what happens when you put a bit of pressure on these teams. They don't, they don't perform and they don't start knocking the ball around like they're capable of doing. But obviously, when we let them do that, it's you're right, Chris. But when we let them do that, it's we let them get into their stride. We let them start to play their football. And that's when problems arise, which we've seen already today. There's been a few opportunities where Sterling's just taken the ball to the byline, cut inside, exactly the same as the first goal, and he could have done it 2 or 3 more times after that. We've not learned from it.
Yep, fair enough, Chris. Your view of the first half, Chris Holt?
I've just been enjoying being on with all you more than the football. It's been a great show. Now, do you know what? As Nathan's just said, then that was something I was going to bring up. Matt Ritchie's having a bit of a torrid time against Sterling at left back. I feel a bit sorry for him. I mean, do you know the one positive I'm going to take from the match so far? I've seen a couple of players, Shard and Ritchie particularly, where they're everywhere and they look bothered. Now, I'm not going to say that they're playing for Bruce. I'm not going to say that, but I'm seeing a bit of pride and a bit of will to win, which is encouraging. Sometimes you just see players with their heads down and stuff like that, but it seems like we still feel like we're in it. So as long as we make a good start to the second half and we hang on as much as we can, perhaps there'll be some belief that we can possibly nick a point from the game. In terms of changes, I would like to see something done with Ritchie at left back, because I love Matt Ritchie as you know, but he is having a tough time against Sterling, and I think the ball's going to keep coming down City's right hand side, because they've obviously spotted that they're getting a bit of joy from there. I mean, again, going back to Steve Bruce, where you want to see a manager forward thinking and taking action where there's obvious problems. That would be, if Bruce did that would be fab, because we can see that there is a bit of an issue there. What I also wanted to add as well, what's going on with the panel? So we've got Nathan Manua, who was a centre back at Man City, and we've got Steve Sidwell, who was a centre midfielder at Chelsea, Fulham, Reading. I'm struggling to see the Newcastle link. Yeah. So again, it's just laughable.
It's bizarre. It's bizarre. I mean, I when I saw it today, obviously you could see who's going to be presenting before the program starts, and you just shake your head. There's just no sense in it, is there, Chris? No. Just having a Newcastle United player on isn't very difficult. There's hundreds of ex-pros who they could get on, and it just seems as if they do it deliberately.
Yeah, no, it does. It does. And I think it goes back to what we were saying on the other show, Steve. About I think was it on the show with Lee Clark and Steve Harvey, where they were saying, we've got we've got all these ex players, you know, who we could call upon. In fact, I think Pete mentioned it in our last show. You know, there's loads of you know, previous players who we could call upon, but Sky, BT, whoever it may be, just choose not to do that because I don't think they want you know, people to be criticising Bruce. That's certainly how it feels anyway. And, you know, getting on board with what all those Newcastle fans are saying, I think they like keeping us where we are, keeping us quiet and keeping us, you know, in our box and not coming out of it. You know, everyone expects us to get beat today, including ourselves. But how dare we wish to, you know, want a better club and a better style of play and want to be, you know, finishing higher than 17th every season. You know, how dare we? You know, we you know, we're a lower Premier League club and we're lucky to be in the Premier League.
Dodo Bird, you always come up with some great things. No, I do actually. There's 2 hands, 2 arms. Yep, I need them for praying, Dodo Bird. Praying for results. Pete, first half analysis. Any positives?
Yeah, it's only 1-0. That's definitely a positive. I thought it'd be a lot worse than this by now. I have to say, one of the things that I was looking out for is how we press from the front. Because we haven't in previous games against Man City, against any of the better teams, is that we just don't press the ball high up the pitch. And actually, that's one of the things that I've been really sort of pleased about, is that Jacob Murphy and Almiron are really pressing the centre-backs or the wing-backs high up the pitch, and they're stopping them from playing or overplaying or having too much possession, and they're having to go a little bit longer or go back to the keeper. And what they're doing is that they're just pushing them back further and further back. If we go back to the Chelsea game, they will come in halfway into our own half without even being sort of pressed or even anybody putting a tackle in. And we can't afford to let teams that are good footballers do that. So that's been the positive. And that's where I'd like someone like a Gale to come on at half time, whether they'll make any changes or not, to add to that pressing, to adding to that pace, because there are mistakes there. You know, we've had some moments, and I'll just leave them as moments in the first half where we've looked like we're going to get forward and try and commit a few men into the box. I also like the fact that, you know, there's been a couple of times where Shaw and Clark have come out with the ball. They've got the ball and not just thought about the sideward passing or just about keeping possession, going side to side, but actually getting the ball and bringing it out of play, and actually committing those Man City attackers to say, right, if you're not going to come and press me, I'm going to come out with the ball, and really travelled with it. And it just takes us up the pitch. It just allows us to just get further up the pitch and take the pressure off us for a little bit. But the one thing I'll note, and I did mention before the game, but Man City don't score a lot of goals. They're not free-flowing like they were in previous seasons. You know, normally 1 goal is enough for them, or they don't create massive amount of chances. They've created a couple in the first half, but they don't. So for as long as it stays 1-0, and for as long as we continue to press them high up the pitch, we're well in with it. We're well in with a chance. But just wanted to finally add, I was going to mention what Chris mentioned about the panel that they've got on BT Sport. And it goes back to our previous conversation, is that you've got the likes of Rob Lee, Warren Barton, Steve Clark. Okay, Warren Barton's in the States, but you've got players in this country, ex-players, players that care about this club, love the club, will talk positively about the club, will certainly give a realistic view of the club from their knowledge. And you know, they've got Steve Sidwell, who's not even associated with either club, and they've got Nader Manila. Now, it's not a case of they've got their own set of pundits and that's all they can have. Nader Manila's never been on BT Sports. Steve Sidwell was hardly ever on BT Sports. So it's not like they couldn't get a player in, a Newcastle player in for this. It's just the fact that really Newcastle are a sideshow. It's all about Man City today. And that's why they've got Nader Manila on there, and that's why all the talk is about Man City and very, very little about Newcastle. But it goes back to my point. If the takeover does go through, and we all hope it does, if it does go through, you watch that start to change. You watch all the ex-Newcastle players, all the Newcastle players we talk about, whether it's your Mickey Quinns, whether it's your Rob Lee, whether it's your Lee Clarks, you know, all those players that we love and adored playing for this club, alongside the likes of Alan Shearer, you watch them all start getting drafted onto BT Sport, Sky, BBC, because they'll all want to know about us. All right, and Newcastle, you know, to them little old Newcastle, like Chris said, they want to just keep us down there, keep us in the Premier League because we're entertaining, but not so much that we're posing a threat. But you watch all that start to change. Considering we're just little old Newcastle, we get just as many TV games and just as much interest TV related as the likes of Leicester, Wolves, West Ham, Villa, or Everton, all those teams that are considered better than and bigger than us up there. Why is it that we're always the ones on TV? They're because they know that we have the backing that we're going to give them the viewership that they want. So they're just keeping us where they are. But trust me, if this takeover goes through, it will just explode. It will explode with interest up north.
Yep. Okay, good stuff. Big shout out to our sponsors, newworkwear.com, specialists in the supply and branding of clothing for the workplace. And also a big thank you to qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend in Newcastle, and also the makers of our t-shirts and merchandise, which you can buy from newcastlelegends.com. Don't forget, you can catch up with the podcast on iTunes or Spotify for free as well. And if you enjoy our broadcasts, it is important that you give it a like, comment as well, give it a share, and just by clicking this little emblem down on the right hand side of the screen now, you can subscribe to the channel and catch up with a load of good content. And we have had quite a bit on, even though it's Christmas. Catch up with Super Mac the England years, which is in our playlist, Super Mac and Gibbo. Catch up on this one on Liam Kennedy, who is the greatest number 9 over the last 30 years, with myself and Liam Kennedy. And we've got some great shows lined up for the next few days, because we are having a few days off. But we are doing a new thing which starts tomorrow night called Dream Team, starting off with Neil Mitchell as he picks his all-time Newcastle United 11. He gets a chance to have a couple of substitutes and a manager as well. So the second half has kicked off, and it is Newcastle United away to Manchester City. Manchester City still winning by a goal to nil. We're about 5 minutes into the second half. Martin, have Newcastle started any brighter?
Oh, I wouldn't necessarily say brighter. I suppose the positive, if you want to take the pundits' line out of it, I suppose at 1-0 we're still in it. Hayden obviously got a bit of a knock there, but he's back up. But again, City are starting to press the ball now. They're starting to get that 3 in midfield with Gundogan, Bernardo, and De Bruyne are now starting to pick up again. But there's a lot of room for Sterling out on the wing. Oh man, missed header there from John Stones back across goal, and nobody can put it in for City. But what's happening when Sterling's going down that side against Richie? The other 3 to 4 are pressing out from midfield and defence, and they're kind of ball watching. They're going to the one player with the ball, and what's happening is either Gundogan or Silva or one of these guys are just popping the ball off real quick around the corner to Sterling. So what's happening is City are creating this gap, and then you've got a one-on-one with Sterling and Richie, which is what happened for the goal, and that's still there. If you look, there it is there. There it is there. Now, like we're pulling defence in. Same thing. So we've got the ball comes in through midfield. 4 of our players circled. Go on.
Go.
Hit it, Murph.
Oh, unlucky.
That's right.
Right there.
Yeah. So yeah, I think the same thing. City definitely, for me, they're definitely not firing. I know Pete said, they're not the free flowing City they were, and they're definitely not. But they still have the threats, but they seem to be struggling a little bit, just getting the ball around and kind of cutting through the back 5 at the moment. And hopefully we can get that to continue. But they're not having a great season so far, City. But let's hope that form doesn't turn anytime soon while we're playing them.
Yeah, good points. Well made. 51 minutes into the game, Newcastle still 1-0 down. Chris, who has changed his headwear to an orange, a rather fetching orange hat now. Chris, Matty Longstaff, a lot of people, were scratching their heads as to where he was. He's back in the team tonight. Has he impressed you?
No.
Thanks, Chris. Al Walid?
No, I was going to say all of the time we spent in the off season talking about will he sign or won't he sign? You know, what will that mean for Newcastle? So he signed and he's been a non-entity. I'm not saying that he deserves a spot in the squad, but who do we have that's better? We certainly don't have a good history of promoting people from the academy. So I feel like let's see what he's got this year, and if he's not good enough, and we have to take over, then he'll be gone. But to sort of not play him in opportunity positions is sort of like, what's the point of having him on the squad if we're not using him when he's suited?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Fair enough, mate. Al Walid, you went for 1-1. At the moment, your prediction's looking fairly, it's still a possibility.
As long as no another goal from City, because the goal make City, as I said earlier, little bit relaxed, and I'm sure Guardiola not happy with that. But I wish if we can make maybe Gale to be in any, at least it will be a hope.
Yep. Okay. Shane, any changes that you would make now? I mean, it's 1-0. Is Steve Bruce going to sit back and, feel as if this is is a good result and just settle for that? Or do you think he's going to get brave? Like he tried with attacking substitutions against Brentford. It backfired on him and obviously we crashed out of the cup. Can you see him making any substitutions, or do you think he'll just sit with this and hope he can catch them with one attack and get a goal to get an equaliser?
Sorry, I watched that play go up. I think Steve Bruce is renowned for making his subs late. I think in terms of tactics, he even come out and said that he doesn't do tactics himself. Oh, for fuck's sake.
Oh well.
God, Jesus.
Well, that does change that question now. Because
Already 1-1 has gone.
Manchester City's gone 2-0 up, and Al Walid's draw has gone out the window. Yeah, brutal. We'll just talk through this before we'll come back to you, Shane.
That's all right.
Yeah, we'll just watch the move. Again, De Bruyne heavily involved. Fernandes, half-hearted clearance, falls to somebody in the edge of the box. Newcastle thought they cleared the lines again. Almiron caught in possession again at the edge of the box. Great ball in, and it's just simple.
Fernandes again.
Fernandes at 6s and 7s. Almiron again caught in possession at the edge of his own box, and that's not the first time we've said that this season. He messes around on the edge of the box. He's somebody who should just hoof it. He doesn't get rid, and I mean, 2-0 down. 2-0 down.
Torres is not going to get an easier tapping than that this season.
No. Shane, Torres makes it 2-0. I think it's rather academic what Steve Bruce does now with substitutions, but yeah, I mean, what can you say about that?
There's not much you can really be said. I think the second goal was always on the cards. We didn't really look like scoring them. And I mean, Joe Linton had the first shot on target for us, but it wasn't really a shot. It was more of a roll across the ground ball. I think it's just going to be Man City now from now until the end of the game. I think probably subs will probably come into it just because you need to rest tired legs. But then again, we've got Liverpool coming up next, which is going to be a fucking ball like, isn't it? Doesn't look good. I mean, at 1-0, you could probably say if you hang into it until the 80th minute or 70th minute and then brought Dwight Gale on, you could probably nick it. But at 2-0, that's it now. Game over. And I don't think Steve Bruce has anything in his locker to actually change this now. Unfortunately, the game's dead. Yeah. I think it's right.
Nathan, I hope you've enjoyed the rest of your pigs in blankets there, mate. Just in time to come back and give us an analysis on that second goal that Man City scored and what Steve Bruce must be thinking. He's probably thinking, I'm not going to bother putting anybody on because I need to keep them for another game.
Well, yeah, he'll wait till 70 minutes, won't he? Like he always seems to do. kind of like he's like clockwork, isn't he? He's always the same, like same type of substitutions, regardless of how the game's flowing, how the game's moving along. Doesn't seem to really correlate any of the changes that he makes a lot of the time. I think that goal, I mean, I can count probably, I think I'll need to use like another hand to start counting how many times we've given the ball away and conceded a goal from the edge of the area so far this season. Because I think it must be about 6 or 7 goals, I think, so far this season. And then the other type of goal we concede is when our fullbacks kind of not looking over their own shoulder and ends up like turning it into their own net, like we saw the other day. So I think these goals are really sloppy that we're conceding. We're not really giving. I think if you look at really early on in the build up there, De Bruyne, one of the best players in the league, if not the best, outside our area, with nobody around him, no one anywhere near him, and it wasn't his pass initially that led to the goal, but. Are we conceded again? Because I'm a few minutes behind.
No,
but like they should have put that in there. Like the 3 of them missed it, then hit the bar. Like it's ridiculous.
I'm on the app player, so I'm on the BT Sport app. So I think I'm like two minutes behind or something. So you all saw the goal before me. But yeah, really sloppy way to concede goals, and setting up that way, we don't even, you don't give yourself a chance, do you, in games like this, where it's all about being solid at the back and getting them on the counter. We've not looked like playing out of our own half yet once today.
No, it's embarrassing, Chris, and it does feel, Chris Hall, it feels as if the floodgates could potentially open here with still, 30-odd minutes on the clock, and Newcastle at 6s and 7s at the back, and Man City just, enjoying themselves.
Yeah, I think our prediction, Steve, of 4-0 is looking pretty safe now. It certainly looks like City are going to add a couple of more at least, but hopefully that's not the case. I mean, going on to your question before, well, I don't know if you asked actually, but I've seen somebody comment, about Matty Longstaff. I think he's been an improvement on Sean, albeit. I do feel a bit sorry for Matty though, because again, you can see the efforts in there, and he's pressing and he's working hard. And he's actually using his brain a little bit, because I noticed he was sitting back before, and then when a player came into a territory that he deemed, his area, or perhaps, that was a bit dangerous, he acted on it. So I was quite pleased with Matty, in terms of he's working against a world class midfield, isn't he? So it's going to be a difficult evening for him. But in terms of the goal. So obviously Fernandez, tried to do the block, tried to do his best with it. But what annoyed me, and I say this all the time, again, all the other players around him are ball watching. So he makes the block, and then the player who puts it in has got nobody within 10 yards of him, and he's in the 12-yard box. And you just think, what? Why aren't players marking the man? You're never ever gonna stop conceding goals if you don't, do the fundamentals, which is marking your man in a box. I know we've got a corner here, so I'm half excited now in case something happens.
Easily cleared.
Yeah. So this isn't a surprise. It's nothing that we didn't expect. For me now, in terms of substitutions, personally, I don't know, a few people have said this, over the last few games. I'd just throw Elliot Anderson on. I mean, the game's done. Let's throw him on for the last 20-25 minutes and just see what he looks like. Just, give him a little run out, because really, I mean, we can bring Dwight Gale on as well, but I think we all know the game's done, or it feels like it's done anyway. Maybe take off a couple of players who are going to be valuable, for the next few games, and just give them a rest, because they need to be fresh, because really, I'd say the game's done. So I'd be throwing Elliot Anderson on. I'm not even sure if I'd miss Gale if Wilson's had a knock. Maybe leave Joe up top, because it's, like I say, I can't see us getting back into it. I just think
if he's had a knock, why is he on the bench?
Yeah, he shouldn't be on the bench. Exactly, he shouldn't be, and it probably is an excuse. Not a very good one from Steve Bruce, because it doesn't add up, does it?
He can't lie straight in bed because nobody believes the ASM story. I mean, he's still in France, no real reasoning behind it. And we all know that, the time it takes for COVID to lift. He should be back in this country. Why was he in France? The whole thing is just bizarre. He's saying Callum Wilson's took a knock, yet he's still got him on the bench available for selection tonight. Nothing ever adds up with Steve Bruce. As I say, he couldn't lie straight in bed for me. Pete, are the players so bad because of the takeover looming, do you think? Does the takeover have an effect on the players?
I don't think the recent form is down to anything takeover related. You could have argued that during restart. With it being heavily talked about at that point in time. The players, with all the media speculation around it and the players potentially coming in and all the rest of it that was banging about, you couldn't not get affected by it as players when you're reading all that in the papers. You're in lockdown, so you're at home all day, so all you're doing is following news. You would naturally, but not right now. They're in full flow of a season. This is not down to takeover related at all. This is down to bad management and bad organisation. It's as simple as that. Nothing more, nothing less. People talk about Matty. I don't think Matty's had a bad game. I think he's distributed the ball well. I think he's worked hard forward and back. I think his positioning's been slightly off at times, but you would expect someone like Hayden to talk him through that. But I don't think he's put anything massively wrong. I don't think he's done too bad at all, considering he's not played a lot of football recently at all. In fact, in the last month or so. It's just so frustrating because just before they scored that second goal, I was going to say when it came round to me that I was going to say that at this point I'd be thinking of possibly putting on a Gale or a Wilson, because we seem to be getting a little bit of joy going forward because they can't handle the pace. And then they go and score a really, really poor goal. I mean, I don't blame it on Federico Fernandez because he's blocking the cross. It's just unfortunate that it's fell to the player that's standing there unmarked in the middle. So if I was Fede Fernandez, I'd be looking around at my defenders in midfield. So why wasn't he picked up, or where was my support there? Because he had the pick of the box there when he got the ball and it fell to Torres. So really, really disappointing. You can tell the players were affected by it for 2 or 3 minutes because Man City could have got a third and probably should have got a third. But because we've got the likes of Almiron and Murphy, whenever we get the ball, we're always looking to go forward. And for me, that's a positive, because as long as we're looking to go forward still, it means it's taking the pressure off us at the back. And the longer we can do that, the longer it stays at 2-0. For me, over these next 3 games, I was thinking, if we, at any point, a point or more out of these 3 games is a positive. If we come out of these 3 games under double figures, minus double figures goal difference, that's a positive as well. Anything other than that, it's what was expected. So, keeping the result down, on the back end again, keeping the result down against Man City is important. Because look, if we do get dragged down to a relegation battle, goal difference kicks in at that point, and we have to think about that. That was something that Rafa Benitez always thought about. He always thought about goal difference, even though we were never really in a relegation battle. It was always what if. That's the proactiveness that Rafa Benitez had about his managerial appointments, and that's what we need to be thinking about now: is can we keep it tight? Can we make it difficult for the 90 minutes? But look, Man City are a dominant team. I don't think they've been as dominant as what they normally are. They don't score a massive amount of goals, but again, we've created half chances, more than what we had in the FA Cup game against these in restart. But we're a limited team. Let's be honest. We're a limited team full of limited players, particularly some that are on the pitch right now, with the likes of Joe Linton, with the likes of Matty Longstaff, for example, the likes of Yedlin. They're all sort of limited players, and that's you're going to get sort of average performances from them. It's just about how we hold out now for the next sort of like half an hour or so.
Yeah, the rain comes sheeting down, being an awful night down in Manchester, Martin, but don't really think that's had much of an effect on the game. It's the same for both teams, and pretty much as we expected. Newcastle out of their depth a little bit as they make a substitution. Lewis has come on for Richie, who I think Nathan made the point. He's had the lickings of a dog tonight. He's had a really tough evening. He'd be pleased to get off.
Yeah, and I think he obviously picked up the yellow there. He's kind of been burned a couple of times for pace by a couple of the City players, so I can understand maybe bringing him off. But the other thing for me, obviously, we put Joe Linton back up front again after Bruce said he wouldn't, and he's won a couple of headers and a couple of flick-ons, but there's nobody running off behind him, which obviously you kind of need Almiron and Murphy to be running off, or somebody to running off behind him if he's going to get that flick on. And we've obviously not got anybody doing that. So maybe a Gale, change it up a bit. We're 2-0 down. So does he switch it up a little bit maybe and go to a more 4-4-2 and see, can we get somebody running off of Joe Linton? I don't know. City haven't really had to change gear. The chances that they've missed and hit the bar, really, they should be 4 up, probably more by now. I don't think they're going to have to change up gears much to see the game through anyway. But again, Nathan said Bruce's piece is normally around the 70-minute mark before he changes up. So look, we've Lewis on. Let's see, can he do any better against that left-hand side? But I'd be surprised. I think City will just cruise this out. Kind of 20 minutes to go. Can't see there being much more changing at this point.
Joe Linton gets up off the ground after a bit of treatment, had a bit of a sore back, but seems to be okay. And Newcastle 2-0 down at City. Chris, back with you, mate. And coming up to the 70th minute mark, 20 minutes to go. It's just a case of seeing this game out, really, and just hoping Newcastle don't concede further goals. And with the threat of Aguero coming on from the Manchester City bench, I'm afraid that, the chances of another goal for City is probably quite likely.
Yeah, no, isn't he the Newcastle killer? He seems to have a special aptitude for really sticking a knife into the heart of Newcastle with his prowess. But so hopefully he doesn't. He's not on his game tonight. But again, I haven't really seen much signs of any kind of threat from Newcastle. Sure, they've held City to 2 goals, which is more than some of us were expecting or hoping for. But it could have easily been double or triple that. So, see what happens against the champions.
Yep. Okay, Al-Walid, no way back. Your 1-1 draw prediction was slightly optimistic, I think I felt anyway. But 2-0 possible, nearly 3-0 there as Newcastle put it behind for a corner to Man City. It's it hasn't been our night, Al-Walid, and Newcastle, are out of the depth here against a team which is far superior.
I'm not happy about the second goal as well. Almiron did same mistake against Southampton, I believe. He's not a defensive player. He's playing in he have defense role doesn't suit him. Same mistake against Southampton. And here, big Andy Carroll. He's let's see what's gonna happen. I'm sad. At least I wish there is try. What's gonna be worse? Let's try to make at least one goal. I don't know why he's still keeping Wilton, but I think he's out. I think. Instead of Andy Carroll, I believe.
Yeah, I think that was the substitution. I did miss it there, but I think Andy Carroll came on for Joe Linton.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
it's
a straight swap, and it's like for like, Al-Walid. It's a like for like substitution.
Because maybe he just want to give opportunity for Andy Carroll. He doesn't want anything from the game. So far, it seems. And we can see from the beginning of Lines Up, it was like maybe experiment for him. He expected to lose.
Okay, thanks for that. Shane, 2-0 down, 72 minutes on the clock. Couple of substitutions made. Jamal Lewis on for Richie, as we've already said, booked. So, Richie wasn't having a very good evening. Joe Linton, probably again done
Mile
as much
onside.
as Joe Linton could do. Yeah, as Man City almost score again, but Newcastle get a little bit of luck there as it squeezes across the line and Yedlin has the ball and it's safely away. But yeah, Shane, Andy Carroll coming on for Joe Linton, it's not gonna change the course of this game, is it?
What you're talking about, like for like, and only like for like in my mind, is they're both shit. I mean, you brought Andy Carroll on for the last 10 minutes against Brentford. He ran into his own player. He shouted at the ref and he put 2 balls over the bar. So I don't know what he brings to the team at all, Carroll. I just think he's a waste of a substitution. And that's the annoying thing about the subs. You only get 3 of them. And one of them he picks with Andy Carroll. It's just a waste, an absolute waste of a substitution that he doesn't bring anything. But I think one of the concerning things is we've only got 22% possession here, but this hasn't been our worst game this year. And that says a lot about where we currently are right now. We haven't got the ball, but it's not been our worst game. And that tells you a lot about us right now, to be honest with you. You brought Richie on, who you said has had a torrid time. I don't know where Paul Adama is. Is he injured?
That's a good point. I've got no idea where. I don't think he put a foot wrong, but this seems to be like Steve Bruce's way at the minute. He just seems to be putting people in. A good old Geordie expressions, willy-nilly. He just seems to be waking up one day and going, I'll give Paul Dummer a run out, and then getting the next game, I'll give him a run out. There's no explanation, and none of the press, none of the press seem to be asking the question when they have the press conferences.
Yeah, it's a weird one because when did he come on with Paul Dummer? Was it against West Brom?
Fulham.
Was it Fulham?
Yeah, played the whole game.
Yeah. So I thought he would have started against Brentford, but no, he wasn't there. He's not here now, which is really, really strange. If I'm being honest, I don't know where the fuck he is.
Is he giving Dummett? Is he giving the likes of Dummett and Matty Longstaff a run out so he can sell them in January?
I don't know who would want him. If I'm being honest, so I don't know why he'd do that. I don't know.
He's got to be doing that for Yedlin, hasn't he?
Yeah. Well, I think Yedlin was going to go during the summer, but the problem that they had is they didn't have any reinforcements. So they're going to get rid of him.
I was going to say, Shane, the teams that want him are all in the States, and he's on too big of wages. They can't afford to pay his wages over there. So that's a sticking problem.
How much is he on, Yedlin? Probably on about 55, 60, you'd imagine, wouldn't you? Everyone's on a bumper contract at Newcastle. It's fucking pathetic.
I'd reckon about 40, 45 maybe.
Yeah, probably around that. But Yedlin's going to be gone anyway, so you're probably right about that.
Shelby's on 80, Shane.
Who is? Shelby? Yeah, I know Shelby's on 80. It's fucking mind-boggling, isn't it? What some of these people are on. It's just fucking criminal, to be honest with you. No, but going back to the game, I don't think it's our worst performance this season. Which says a lot. I think if we can come out of it losing 3-0, it wouldn't be the worst result. Liverpool's going to be a different test. I think if we can come out of that losing 3-0 as well going into Leicester, I don't really know, mate. To be honest with you, it's all going to be quite shit this next couple of weeks, isn't it? My optimism's not that high, if I'm being completely honest.
Here's a great one coming now, so let's all just turn off.
Yeah. I think, in summary, it's not been the worst game. I think if you look at the players, they are giving it a go. I think there was some remarks coming out from the press that the players aren't playing for Bruce. I think you could probably say that's not the case because they are giving it a go here. So that's one positive. But yeah, it's not been a great game by any accounts, to be honest, man.
No, it definitely hasn't. Nathan, Aguero is coming on. He's a nemesis of Newcastle United. If Alan Shearer was the man who scored goals against Leeds, Aguero is the man who scores goals against Newcastle.
Yeah, and I mean it's easy to see why with our kind of calamitous back four, isn't it? With and the way that it's gone today, the way that the game's shaped up is that they've had a lot of joy getting down the left and right in equal measure at times. So the fact that they're going to be getting, all they need to do is get a ball across the box to him, and it's going to be, we could be looking at cricket score territory here. I think on the Carroll substitution, doesn't make sense to me why they wouldn't just bring Anderson on, like people have mentioned earlier on, just to give it. Have a look at the lad. Have a look, see what he's about. See how he carries himself in this game. It'll all be experience for him. Talking about Carroll, I think I saw a tweet today. I think it was. It said it was 10 years to the day that he scored the last goal for Newcastle. So like 10 years on, we're still plodding away. Here he is. I know he went away and he's been back and he's been here for a year now and done nothing for us. So it begs the question: what's the point of a striker if they're not putting the ball in the back of the net for you? And yeah, you just love to think that if you were Anderson on that bench and you were people are talking about you, people are saying you've got all the attributes to be to be the next one of the next big players or to make a name for yourself in the Premiership. If you're seeing these like sort of washed up players like Andy Carroll brought on before you, what kind of message does that send? Similar to Matty Longstaff. Like Matty Longstaff's not been getting a game, but he's got to look at his team and wonder. I know he's not really set the world alight today, but he's got to be looking at that team thinking, why am I not getting a chance? And you've got to feel for the lad because are we at risk of Anderson being another one of these players now that will get loaned out to the likes of Blackburn Rovers, Brentford, and start playing the trade in the lower leagues, and then just never make it for us, and never have that sort of value attributed to them but we've got these other players in our team where look at them, how many of the panel would have Ivan Toney in our team now or Adam Armstrong. We'd take them all day long, wouldn't we, over Gale and Carroll? So how is it that we don't keep these players in our team and we've got these workhorses like absolutely robbing a living for us week in, week out?
Yeah, it's been a dismal night so far, but not as bad as I was expecting, Chris. I know me and you both felt it was going to be 3-4-0 tonight, but 2-0, about 10 minutes left plus stoppages. Andy Carroll on, obviously for Joe Linton, it's not going to change the course of this game, is it?
No. It just feels like I was saying before, we wanted maybe to rest a couple of players. That's how I'd see it anyway. Just rest a couple of players and prevent further injuries. But to be fair, no offense to Joe, but he wouldn't have been my first choice to come off. I probably would have looked elsewhere. But yeah, I would have liked to have, as Nathan's just said, what I said before. I would have liked to have seen Elliot Anderson come on because this game's a nothing game now, and it's just damage limitation, which is what we felt at the start of the game at kickoff. So really, for me, we should be giving the likes of Elliot Anderson a little run out and seeing what he's all about. Yeah, that's pretty much it, to be honest.
That's such a shit thing to say, though, isn't it? Like, Chris, it's a nothing game at 2-0 in the Premier League. Like, it's awful, isn't it? That's where we're at, and that's like we concede a goal or two, and the game's gone from us, and we've never any chance of getting back into it. It's awful because it should never be a nothing game, should it? At any point for us, but like it's a nothing game even when it's 0-0 for us. It seems at times. Yeah, no, definitely, mate. What somebody said then earlier. It's not been.
Great save.
That's a save. Yeah.
That was a ball and a half in as well, by the way.
Yeah, it was a great ball, wasn't it? I think, it's a crying shame, and it's horrible to have that attitude and, to feel like, all your enthusiasm sapped out of you. And unfortunately, that's the Ashley regime, isn't it? And how we're all feeling under Bruce at the moment. And where we go from here, I don't know. I mean, we've got Liverpool next, haven't we, at home? That's going to be a really interesting one. Hopefully, home advantage might make a difference. I doubt it, but you never know. And obviously, Fulham picked up a point the other week against Liverpool, didn't they? So hopefully, Liverpool don't turn up. But based on the fact they beat Palace 7-0, if they're at it and they score an early goal again, I mean, I'd even go as far as to say, if it gets to 1-0 early on, I'd say exactly the same thing. It'd just be a case of, well, that's us done, and it's sad. It's really it's a real shame that well, not just me, but I'm sure we all feel that way, and it's not a nice feeling.
No, definitely not. Everton 1-0 up now. It's interesting, Pete, just reading some of the comments that are coming in. I'm sure you see them on the screen as well. The teams below us, that's the biggest concern now. Newcastle, as we expected, have hit a bad run of form. Continues over the next few, games, which we would imagine it will, looking at the teams we've got to play, and those teams keep winning. Suddenly that, that gap that we had between us and the bottom three is, suddenly shortened, and Newcastle is where we would have expected them to be in a relegation battle.
But this is the thing, and it's easy for the media to say, "Oh, we're on 18 points, blah blah blah. We're safe," and there's pundits coming out that are saying, we're definitely going to be safe this year. We're not even looking at a relegation battle. It can turn around very, very quickly. But with results like that, with Everton scoring against Sheffield United, it keeps them down there. And as long as those other teams keep losing matches, it in a way it papers over. It papers over our cracks in that it doesn't make us look as bad as what we know as fans that we are. And this is in one way it's frustrating because we know how bad we're playing, and we know that the performances aren't good enough, and we know that there are serious issues within the club at the moment and the way that we're playing. But again, with other teams performing even worse than us, it's not hot topic news, and that's why it doesn't get written about us. A lot of it is to do to protect Steve Bruce, because a lot of the guys that do a lot of these writings are his mates, and they don't want to talk bad about him. But ultimately, it's because others are just performing worse than us. But going on to what sort of Chris said, this has been Newcastle for years now. I can go back to the days under sort of Kieran Dyers and Jermaine Geniuses and go back even as long as that, even before the Ashley era, is that you knew in games that if you did not get the first goal, we were not going to win, or we weren't going to be in a game. Now, in the Ashley era, it's got even worse in that we have to get the first goal if we're going to get something from the game, because we've just lost that mentality of being able to fight back. I think the only time we've ever fought back from being 2-0 down, I think it was the Everton game where we came back to win 3-2 at St James's, with Perez and Rondon scoring. We're not well known for a team that actually fights back and from losing positions. We're just not that type of team, and we're certainly not that type of team. That fights back from positions of being 2-0 down against a top team like Man City, a top footballing team. So, we know, when it goes 2-0, the game's done. And it's horrible to say, like Chris said, it's horrible to say, but it's just the reality. Even the players know it. The players know the game's done once it's 2-0. You see the heads drop. You see the intensity on one or two players drops by 10-15% because they know the game's done. They know that we're not going to get anything out of it. And it's just a case of damage limitation, and that's all it's been. Since that second goal went in, it's just been damage limitation. There's been very limited amount of attacking intent, and we're just kind of like, right, we'll take the 2-0 and we'll be happy with that, and that's it. So, it's a really sort of disappointing position to be in. But it's under this regime, under this owner, under this manager, it won't change until all of those things change. Unfortunately, we need a complete new mentality around the club, not just with the players. We need a brand new mentality, a brand new way of thinking. It just like literally this takeover will just ensure that the club is just ripped up. It literally just like ripped up and started all over again. That's what we need in order to sort of rebuild to be the team that we want to be in the future.
Yes, was a VAR check for a penalty there, but it was waved away again, and Aguero went down. Darlow made a fine challenge, that has to be said, and VAR didn't see that as a penalty. De Bruyne had another chance to put Man City 3-0 ahead, but it was cleared by the Newcastle back four. Martin, as we come into the last 5 minutes of the game, 2-0, you know, this is the way I mentioned it earlier. This is the way Ashley's got us feeling it. Somebody mentioned it in the chat as well. It almost feels like a moral victory, doesn't it, when you're 2-0 down against Man City away?
Do you know what? I think Chris Hall made a good point. Like, we've not played great, but we've probably not played as bad as we can do. And there'll more than likely be other teams will go to Man City this season and probably ship more than we have. So from that perspective, I suppose you look at it and go, okay, well, if we'd have sat there tonight and, we'd said it's going to be only 2-0, I think we would have all taken it given our current form and where we've been. So, it's not as big a hit to the goal difference. To be honest, for me, I'm probably more worried about Liverpool than I was City, because I think with the front three that Liverpool have got, I think they'll probably cause us a hell of a lot more trouble than City have done tonight. Again, I suppose, what changes do you make then for that game? Does he play Wilson for the Liverpool game? Doesn't he? How's he going to start? Is he going to go with a similar kind of lineup, 5 at the back? Probably. I think, again, City haven't had to get out of second gear. They probably could have had 6 or 7 if they'd taken their chances, if we're honest. So, look, the match is done and gone. I think to phrase Pete's point, I think, when we did have players the likes of Jermaine Jennings, Kieran Dyer, players like that, the pre-Ashley, we didn't go out and we didn't beat every team. But you know what? We didn't go to a game beforehand and go, we're going to lose. I wouldn't have sat at a game pre the Ashley era and gone, we're going to lose. Even if it was a Liverpool or a Man City, you had a little bit of hope. And I hate using Steve Bruce's word of, we can only hope. But we did have hope. And I think the difference now is we sat, talking on this panel before we went live, and we all went, apart from our lead, we all went, oh yeah, we're going to get beat. And there is, that hope, that optimism, that eternal flame, I suppose, is just, it's been battered out of us, which is, I think is really, really sad to see.
It is. Chris, we did a show with Lee Clark and Steve Howie just before Christmas, and Lee Clark gave himself a bit of a pitch for the job, really. Steve Howie was pushing him forward. A lot of people in the chat were asking if it was a short-term measure, if Bruce did get the bullet, would he take the job? Lee Clark said yes. Steve Howie is a former teammate, and this was completely unprompted, said he would do a great job. So Lee Clark, not a name really that's been mentioned a great deal. A lot of people saying Eddie Howe, a lot of people saying Nigel Pearson. Would you take one of our own? Would you take Lee Clark and maybe see him bring a couple of local lads in? Steve Harper, of course, is already there as goalkeeping coach. Would you like to see maybe Lee Clark come in on a short-term contract until the takeover was decided either way?
I'd have him. Of course, the question has always been, if not Bruce, then who? And then if who would take the job with the takeover looming and knowing that you would not be the consortium's choice? Clearly, they want to bring Rafa Benitez back. So I fully support Lee Clark being an interim stopgap, if you want to call it, manager. He's somebody who was a genuine Newcastle pedigree, because of course we've always wondered whether Steve Bruce, being from Newcastle, is actually a Newcastle supporter or not, just an infiltrated Man United fan. But I'm a fan of Lee Clark, and I think that he would be a solid manager. And obviously he's not going to be the Champions League or Premier League winning or any kind of cup winning league type manager, but he's somebody that could hold over until the takeover is completed or clarified, and the consortium's priorities, whether it's Rafa or somebody more prolific than Rafa even, is the choice for the thing. Because bottom line, it's always been a question of who would take the job, knowing that they would not probably be the long-term choice for the consortium. And I think Lee Clark fits the bill on both ends.
Okay, Alwaleed, Lee Clark, would you take him as a potential replacement for Steve Bruce?
Is he gonna accept working under Mike Ashley?
Yes, he's already worked for Mike Ashley. When Mike Ashley first came to the club, he was involved with the first team for a short while.
Well, we need a change, yani. We need a change at the moment. Because I'm sure we can do better.
Okay, Shane, would you take Lee Clark short term to maybe navigate the Premier League, or would Tom Lynch has made a point about Lee Clark? He says he's a class bloke, but he struggled at Blythe. You're on mute, Shane.
Sorry.
Okay.
I think it's a question that raises more questions, really. I mean, one, how long would it be? Two, what managerial experience has he got? Three, would the players actually want to play underneath him? I mean, if I was a player at Newcastle and someone came in with no managerial experience, I'd be like, well, what the fuck's going on here? If it was a stopgap until the takeover went through, then possibly. But then again, what managerial experience has he got managing a team in the Premier League? Nothing. I'm not saying that the bloke wouldn't do well. I'm just saying that because he's been untested, then no one really knows. I guess you could go back to saying when Alan Shearer was with us, he got us relegated. It wasn't necessarily all of his fault. The players weren't playing for him, but at the same time, it didn't really work out. So it would be a dubious one, to say the least.
Okay,
I'm not so sure.
Full time, Newcastle United lose 2-0 to Manchester City. As I said earlier, feels a bit like a moral victory for Newcastle, keeping the score down. Nathan, as Steve Bruce shakes Pep Guardiola's hand, and Pep Guardiola commiserates with him. It was to be expected, 2-0 down. But Lee Clark, as a potential manager, if Steve Bruce, did the right thing and stepped down, or if Mike Ashley did the right thing and fired him, would you take him?
Listen, I think it'd be, Lee's a great guy. I've really enjoyed sort of listening to him speak on the shows through this year. No doubt it'd be a very difficult job to take. For me, it would all be around who would they get in around him, because it looks like Steve Bruce doesn't particularly work on much on the training field. There's not much going on there, it seems. If they just do a straight swap out of Lee Clark in and in for Steve Bruce, and the backroom staff stays the same, I don't know if Lee Clark could have a team of people that he would bring with him like a lot of sort of top level managers do. But if that whole sort of core of the background team stay the same around him, then I don't know how much would change. I don't doubt that. I think the one big benefit of that would be that Lee Clark would get the team fired up and get them playing with some passion and get some pride in that shirt, which is what is massively lacking at the moment. So for me, it would be about who they bring in, like as a number two as well. I think they need someone very senior alongside him as well that would help him work on the day-to-day things that and have some experience of working with these kind of high level players. For me, I think obviously I'd love the opportunity. I think if he was to come in, there was talk of obviously if there was a takeover and that kind of thing. But if he's serious about his management career and he wants to sort of go onto the next level, if he took our job with the view to even being replaced when the takeover came through, it will be a good opportunity for him to get his foot in the door at the club, and there's no reason why he couldn't stay on, in a number two capacity or a coaching capacity and that kind of thing, and then that's a good that'd be a good stepping stone for him. But I think it'd be a big task for him. But yeah, it will be all around who they're getting around him as well.
Okay, Chris. Lee Clark potentially, put himself in the shop window on NUFC Matters the other night. Is that somebody you would consider as even just as a short-term goal? It seems to be splitting opinions on the panel and in the chat.
Mate, I'd take Steve Clark. That's Steve Clark. I'd take Lee Clark tomorrow. I really would, because do you know what? I watched the show the other night, and do you know what? He was talking a lot of sense, and I always. Obviously, because he's an ex-Newcastle legend, and you know what, he does seem like a really top fella as well, and I liked him when he played for us. I always felt sorry for Lee Clark because Do you know what? I felt so frustrated for him because he started his career out in Huddersfield, and then I think he went to Birmingham. And you know what? He did a decent job at both clubs. If I'm rightly thinking, at Birmingham he did pretty well. And then he got sacked unjustly. I think it was it around the same time that Gary Rowett? Did Gary Rowett get sacked when he shouldn't have as well? Birmingham were going through this period where the owners were just sacking managers for fun. And
when
you know
Lee,
what?
when Lee went to Birmingham, he was only there a few days, and the owner ended up in prison. So then he had to sell all his best players. So you know he ended up going there at the wrong time. But yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I thought he did. I must be remembering when he was at Huddersfield because I thought I remember he started his managerial career and he'd done a really good job. And I felt sorry for him because it kind of just went on a bit of a spiral. And when he took that Blackpool job, I thought, oh no, don't, because Blackpool were just, they were. I was really surprised he took it, to be honest, because I don't think there would have been many people queuing up to do it. I mean, it was one of those. I suppose it was like when Chris Coleman went to Sunderland when they were like a sinking ship. You know, I think it was the wrong time and the wrong club. But, you know, from the other night, Lee Clark spoke a lot of sense. And it'd be nice to we need somebody in who, you know, understands the club, understands the fans. And I'm not going to, in case there's any non-Newcastle fans watching here, I'm not saying we need a Geordie manager. Not for 1 minute am I saying that. I'm saying we need somebody in who, you know, understands that he's here on a temporary basis, steady the ship, get a reaction out to the players. So for me, as I say, I think Lee Clark would be great. I would honestly, I would take Lee Clark tomorrow. If it meant getting rid of Bruce, I would.
Okay, same question to you, Pete. Would you take Lee Clark on a short-term measure?
In a word, no. Being honest, I wouldn't. We need we need a manager with a lot of experience at a top level. However, if you ask me, would have Lee Clark in the backroom staff, 110%. I loved listening to your show with Lee Clark and Steve Harvey the other day. I thought it was fantastic. The bit that I was really interested in the most is how we talked about John Joe Shelby. And he spotted in 2 minutes what we've been seeing for months and months and months. The fact that he sits on the centre backs, the fact that he just has the ball, sprays 50-yard passes left and right, and just really simplifies his game and loses all of the quality in which he has, and actually doesn't help the team. And he talked about how he would change that and how he would get him playing further forward, and the type of football he would play and be able to play when getting on the ball further up the pitch. And I just thought, please, I just hope that Bruce or somebody's watching this show just to listen to what Lee Clark's saying, to go back to Lee Clark and say, to go back to John Joe Shelby and say, look, listen to this guy. This is how you need to play. This is how you get the best out of your game. And it would just take someone like Lee Clark in training as a coach, day to day, just working with the likes of Matty Longstaff, Sean Longstaff, Isaac Hayden, and John Joe Shelby, just telling them what they need to do during the game to improve their game, to improve the effectiveness of the midfield. Just somebody like that at the club that's got the know-how, that's got the experience of playing for the club and playing for a team that's a little bit more on the front foot. So 100% definitely have him in the backroom staff. But I just think he'd be great working alongside a manager, not necessarily being the manager. I would have him in the club. You know, we've done the same with the likes of Shola as the loan manager. I still don't know what that means or what even does. But, you know, with the likes of Peter Ramage, for example, back at the club, you know, having him in there, he's got the experience of playing for the club in Europe and at Premier League level and using that experience for the youngsters and trying to help them through. You know, in those situations, yes, those kind of guys that have got experience, and Lee Clark's got a little bit of lower league management experience as well. Bringing those guys in can only be a benefit, but we need a manager that's going to build a philosophy, that's going to build a system, that's going to build, you know, a success effectively. And I think him working alongside that would be good long term. But you know, it's not rocket science here. With some of these players, they need these conversations. And my question is, why has this not happened already? Why is it that Lee Clark, an an ex-Newcastle player, an ex, he's a current coach and manager, right? How can he spot that and talk to us 2 minutes on the show and tell us exactly what the issues are with John Joe Shelby? Yet the coaches and the manager that work with him day in, day out haven't had that conversation yet. I've been saying the same about John Joe Shelby and the way he plays and the way he sits on the centre backs, and he's not the only one. He was right on Tuesday night. Him and Longstaff were doing it together. They're both doing
Do you know what, Pete? Just to jump in there, I get what you're saying, and I understand. Lee Clark. I think you're absolutely right. I think Lee Clark would, as an assistant or maybe as a coach, he'd be fantastic, and I'd love him to come into the club. But right now, if someone said to you, you can take Bruce out and bring Clark in, would you genuinely not want that? Because the way Bruce is setting up, mate, he hasn't got a clue. Like you say, Lee Clark in 2 minutes understood the problem. Is Clark, the answer long term? Not so sure. But I tell you what, mate, he'd do a much better job than this. What we're watching, much better. I mean, even if he was on the sidelines, you could see it now with like Shelby sitting there. You could imagine him screaming at him, going, "Get up, get up!" And Bruce just stands there. And I just think, like Bruce to me now, someone said it the other day on Twitter, about Pardew. I'd take Pardew over him. I really would. McLaren, not so sure, but Bruce to me now, he's done. He's I'm not going to get on the whole Bruce out train because we all know he's probably going nowhere, mate. But honestly, I'd rather take a punt on Clark. I really would. I mean, I just wanted your thoughts on that anyway.
Look, if you're giving me a straight decision between the two of them, yeah, I think Bruce has had his time. I think he's done. I think he's a ticking time bomb. That's what he is right now. So if you gave me a choice between one or the other, yeah, I would say Lee Clark come in and add that little bit of fire and passion in. But if you're giving me a choice of Bruce out and other managers as well as Lee Clark, then probably not. That's just my opinion. But why is he not? Why has he not been asked? Why has he not been asked to come into the club? Why is the question not been asked already? Exactly, and this is the thing. This is the thing. But going back to my point, why have these questions on certain players not been asked already inside the club? Why are they not talking to John Joe Shelby and talking to the midfielders about how they're playing? Why is Joe Linton still playing as a sole striker, for example? Why is that still being allowed? We could go through the team. We could go through the team of why things are not being done. And like we're seeing them week in, week out. We're not seeing any changes. We're not seeing any improvements. We're just not. We're just seeing the same crap week in and week out. And on some weeks, we'll get a lucky win and we'll get 3 points. On the other week, we'll get a hammering like Leeds. Okay. On another week, we'll put a poor performance in and scrape a draw like Fulham. It's the same stuff all the time, and it all depends on how the opposition turn up and what their mindset is. It's not about us as a club and as players. It's about how the opposition turn up and what their feelings are, and that's the frustration. But look, Lee Clark should be in and around the club 100%. And there's a few others there. I mean, I'd have been putting calls out to the likes of Rob Lee. Players like that. Warren Barton's already said in the past with Steve that he would consider working for the club. He would consider going there. Stephen Glass, for example, on Steve's other show, mentioned the same. Even I know he's at Atlanta United, but they've all talked about an interest in working at the club. Ex-players that have got coaching badges, that have got experience in the game, can only be a good thing working with some of these young players or some of the current first players. I'm not saying they should be managers, but you've got an opportunity to really draft in some good players and some good experience to have around you. If you're Steve Bruce, you'd be wanting that experience around you to help you, because if you're a limited manager like him, it would only be a good thing. So it's so frustrating.
It is. 2-0 was the score, Tony Turner. Newcastle United losing 2-0 at Manchester City. So a got out of jail kind of result for Newcastle. Martin, I'll finish off on the Lee Clark question with you before we go around the panel. Just ask them for their final thoughts on today's game. But yeah, Lee Clark, would you like to see him in some kind of role at Newcastle or in the dugout instead of Steve Bruce?
It's a hard question. Like obviously, you love Clarkey. Would he give us a kick up the backside and bring a bit of passion back? I think he probably would. Would it change anything dramatically with what's above us? Probably not. He's still going to have possibly loan players in January. I just think it's a sad indictment, really, that of the Ashley era, that defeats like this don't hurt us anymore. We just look at it and we go, oh, well, 2-0.
Yeah.
And that's what we've become. That's the reality of what we've become. It's not, I get angry over pundits that don't understand us, that can't seem to see the same things that the 6 or 7 or 8 of us see week in, week out. I get frustrated when we've got, a team of coaches and first team coaches and under 23s that, we're prepared to throw on Andy Carroll instead of giving an 18-year-old who's been scoring for fun, and we did the same with Elias. We loaned him out. We're scoring for fun in the under 23s. Nobody would give him a run out. So I think, whoever comes in, I think, yeah, absolutely backroom staff and help him with under 23s and stuff like that. I think, the longer term, I'd love to see some of the club legends come back, because I think, if you look at the likes of Robson, you look at Keegan, you look at managers we've had that understood what being a Newcastle manager was, that understood the city, understood the fans. That's when we've flown and we've been able to, spread the wings. And again, we might not have won every game under Sir Bobby. We certainly didn't under Keegan, but you had that hope. And when you did get a defeat against City or United, against a Man United or Liverpool, it hurt then. Whereas now, like I've watched this game tonight, I actually don't really give a shit, because we knew what was going to happen. So it's like, right, I'm going to the next game now, Liverpool. Do you know what? We'll probably get beat off them. I actually don't give a shit. And it is a sad indictment of where we are under the Ashley era, unfortunately. I seen a few people tweeting there this evening about, and other people putting up in the chats there about where they live, and their kids would rather put on a Wolves jersey or a Liverpool jersey than support their dad's team or whatever else of Newcastle. And it's sad that we don't have that. That's where we are. That we've lost that passion. I just until the man at the top changes, I just think we are what we are, unfortunately. And Bruce will continue to get his support. I'm sure there'll be somebody tomorrow in the press, on Twitter, on BBC, or on TalkSport will be going, well, City are a great side. What did you expect from Bruce? So what's going to change?
I was going to say, Martin, we've lost. We've probably lost 2 generations of fans already under Mike Ashley. I think I'm not sure if it was Steve or someone mentioned about the amount of, if you went back 15, 20 years ago, there wouldn't be a kid in Newcastle without a Newcastle top on. But if you go around the city now, you've got Man United tops on, you've got Man City, you've got Chelsea, you've got Liverpool tops on. They're all supporting other clubs because they're either not being encouraged by their parents because the parents have seen what the club's like currently, or they just don't want to. They want to support one of those more fashionable, more favourable clubs at the top. So, we've already lost a generation of fans, maybe even 2 already. And, that's the sad reality of where we're at. And that's down to, effectively, that's down to one man, like you said earlier, Martin, and that's Mike Ashley. Mike Ashley's decisions over the last 13 years have brought all of this to the forefront. This is why we're talking about what we're talking about now. This is why we're so deflated, with the club and where we are at the moment. And that's why we're so determined as a fan base to ensure that this takeover goes through for a better future, not just for the club and for the players, but for us as fans and for the new generation that are going to come through, the new young Geordies that are going to be coming through. We want them to be supporting the club.
Absolutely.
There's going to be no way back. This is why it's so critical. It's so critical as fans that whatever we can do, in whatever way, shape, or form, if we can put some form of positivity into what's going on at the moment with the takeover, no matter how much or how little we know, and we're positive about it, and we try and do whatever we can to help it through. Right, we need to do that as a fan base, not as individuals, not for personal interest or personal gains. It's about what we do for this club, because if we do that, the years ahead are going to be so much more enjoyable supporting this club. It's going to be unrecognizable. And honestly, you know, if this goes through January, February, March, April, whenever it goes through, you can guarantee this time next year, we're going to have a completely different outlook on how we're talking about Newcastle United as a club. We can guarantee.
The problem is, Pete, at the minute, you know, and I've just seen Mitch tweet there, you know, this is our level. This is where the bar is. That's just it.
Yeah.
That's our level. We're not, you know, somebody, and I've seen other fans put stuff up, you know, Newcastle aren't a big team. And you know what? They're right. We're not a big team at the minute. We have the potential. But until that changes, then, you know, I think the bar is where it is. Sorry, it's like there's like some flight hostess talking in the background or something.
Those fans that come out and say we're not a big team, or we haven't been a big team, just need to go and look at the BBC stats that were on the other week about where we were pre-Ashley and where we are now current Ashley, in terms of how many European competitions we were in, how many top 5 finishes we had, how many times we challenged for the title. They bang on about Tottenham Hotspur and how they're challenging for the title, blah, 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 and they've got fans going off that they're up there challenging, and they've got Mourinho. Well, we've had just as many Champions League campaigns as them. We've played in Europe just as much as them. We've had more and better amount of title tilts than they have in our history in the Premier League. You know, we were up there challenging. We were the top 5. We were the top 5 under Freddie Shepherd. Before Mike Ashley took over the club, we were considered part of the top 5.
Yep.
That all changed when Mike Ashley came in. He's changed that, right? And Tottenham have switched it over. Okay, but I tell you what, it wouldn't take long to switch it back.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah.
No. Okay, I can tell that some of the guys are wanting to get back to their finger buffets and their real ales and their red wines, etc. So let's go around the panel one last time. Chris, sum up tonight's game and give us a man of the match, please.
Did any of us realistically expect anything better? I think in our heart of hearts, no. I mean, 2-0 against Man City. You know, multiple champions, multiple trophy winners, and also, you know, a world beater lineup. You know, 2-0 it's not a respectable result. It's sort of an expected result. I mean, could we do any better on our day, on our best day? So, you know, we'll see what happens against Liverpool. I would expect a poor result against Liverpool. They just have so much firepower top to bottom, and again, another club that if they played all their reserves against all of our first 11, they'd probably still be favored by 2 goals. So, you know, I guess the bottom line, this could have been a lot worse. 2-0 is a, you know, don't read too much into this, but a decent result against a championship, you know, Champions League side.
Okay, man of the match, Chris. Sorry, what did you say?
Man of the match, you know, and any of these matches where it's not much from Newcastle and could have been worse on the other side, you have to say Darlow.
Okay, Alwaleed, you went for 1-1 at the start. You were optimistic, as opposed to the rest of us. You nearly got there, but not quite. Just sum up the match and give us your man of the match, please.
Two mistakes. The goals, it was mistakes. The weird thing is also, maybe it's not the weird thing, it's expected. Two shots on target for Newcastle, both Murphy only for the whole 90 minutes. This thing being repeated every game. It's a very, very bad any situation, but I hope I hope against Liverpool or Leicester we don't want to repeat the mistakes. We need to fix few things so at least we can get some points for these games. Maybe it's good opportunity to play with these big teams now. So that means that we will play with we finish with these big teams early. So maybe at difficult times at the end of the season, we face lookalike teams, which make things safer maybe.
Okay, we'll look forward to seeing you for the Liverpool game. Shane, give us a review of the game and a man of the match, please. Oh, you're on mute again, mate. You're on mute.
Yeah, I think it's quite depressing, really, that this game was over even before a ball was kicked. I think it's going to be rinse and repeat for the Liverpool match. 2-0 wasn't the worst result in the world, but it wasn't the greatest, to be honest with you. I think in the second half, we only had 12% possession, which was just terrible. Man of the match, again, has to be Carl Darlow. Yeah. See you on Christmas Eve, on New Year's Eve, mate.
On New Year's Eve, see you on Wednesday, mate, for that game. Yeah, look forward to it. Martin, your man of the match, and just a quick appraisal of that game.
Yeah, game-wise, look, nothing we weren't expecting, unfortunately. No real highlights from us. Again, I think probably agreeing with the lads. Darlow for me, man of the match. I think two cracking saves. City didn't take their chances. Could have been 6 or 7. So yeah, Darlow for me, man of the match. Roll on Liverpool.
Yep, Nathan, same question to you, mate.
Yeah, I think like Chris mentioned, did we really in our heart of hearts expect anything else? But being a Newcastle fan, we should be able to expect more than that. Because I grew up watching a team that tried and a team that attacked and fell short a lot of the time, but at least they put in a shift, they put in some effort, and they tried to take the game to people. We didn't try anything tonight at all. This isn't football anymore. We're not watching a football match. We're watching a team go out and just get walked all over and just give so much respect to the opposition. We're Newcastle United. We shouldn't be doing that, and it's been that way for for over a year now. It's been that way for the entirety of Bruce's tenure. It feels like, save for a real select handful of games that you can probably count on one hand where we've actually taken the game to someone and deserved to win. It's increasingly difficult to sit through this week in, week out, and you can't even call that a performance. You can't talking about a performance that wasn't a performance of any sort. They offered nothing at all in any sort of department of the field, and it feels like we're just existing. We're limping from game to game.
There's a stat, Nathan, in the chat there from Martin. He's just put it in there. Second half possession, Nathan, 12% for Newcastle. Manchester City, 783 passes to Newcastle's 173. Wow.
I mean, that's exhibition stuff, isn't it? For for a top team playing against a team of nobodies kind of thing, and that's what it is. That's what all our games look like. It's like we're on life support. We've barely got a pulse at times, isn't it? I think one of the things that we did always have without going back to the Rafa comparisons, under Rafa we always had that strong base to build upon, so we're always in with a chance in every game. But that strong defense, that strong sort of foundation that we have has been totally undone by Bruce. I don't know what he's done to those players to make them how they are now. And we were always rock solid, and it always gave us a chance. But we don't. So I know when I came in, there's a lot of talk about have we moved on as a club, but we've gone backwards. And with the selection of players we've got is better, but we've gone backwards as a team. So I'm not even going to pick a man of the match for me, because it gets to the point now where I pick Carl Darlow every week because he's the only person who kind of he does what he has to do in the net, and he does the best that he can given what's in front of him. So I'm until somebody, I'm fed up of of not being able to pick from at least one or two players that's impressed me in a game, because none of them do impress me at all. It's like Carlo's doing his job, he's stopping whatever he can, and that's the best of that's the best we can hope for, and it's just not good enough.
Okay. Sorry, just to jump in, Steve. Bruce has said that obviously the team needed to respond to the heavy criticism, which rightly came away after Brentford. It was a big improvement.
Fuck off, get out.
Big improvement.
He fucking off. He's still leathered, isn't he? He's still pissed out of his head from yesterday.
That's his post-match comments, lads. There you go.
I thought you weren't going to listen to him anymore.
I didn't. It's on Twitter. I fucking didn't have to read it either.
Chris Hall, wow. Those stats that I just read out that Martin put in the chat, they are damning, aren't they, again? I mean, just absolutely. We'll watch it as well. We'll see what's going on. But when you read it out, it just sounds even worse.
Yeah, it's horrible, isn't it? It's horrible when you're when someone throws those stats at you. Thanks, Martin. But I threw them out earlier as well, didn't I? It is what it is, though. It's where we are, and there's no nobody saw that on the chat and thought, oh God, look at that. That's where we are, and that based on what we're watching, that's no surprise because that as a club, as a team, that's where we are. I mean, in terms of man of the match, Steve. Again, I think like Nathan said, I'll say Darlow, but it's because there's nobody else really to mention. That nobody stood out today, and nobody will probably stand out for the next few games because unfortunately we're up against far better opposition, and we've got nothing. We've got nothing from our manager, to lead the players, and try and at least get something from a game. It is just like damage limitation. I know I keep saying it, but that is all it is. I mean, the fact that it finished 2-0, as I think Martin said earlier, I'm actually quite happy with that. And how sad's that? Like, I think, oh God, we've only lost 2 goals. That's not bad. And again, Bruce has really got away with it, hasn't he? Because, I mean, I suppose he's right in the sense that it was better than Brentford's because Brentford were playing a weaker side and Brentford are in the league below us. And we've played, against the, one of the top 2 sides in the world, really. So the fact that we've managed to scrape, a defeat of 2-0 isn't too bad, especially under Bruce. I mean, going back to what Pete said earlier, the results have been quite generous to us today, so we've been quite lucky. I know Southampton has a late winner chalked off, which is disappointing, but Fulham have only got a point. Sheffield United have just been beat with a last 6-minute winner from Everton, which is great. And then tomorrow, obviously West Ham are at home to Brighton, so you'd hope West Ham will win that. And Liverpool have got West Brom. So whilst the teams below us continue to lose or not pick up maximum points, it keeps us up there, and that's the most important thing for us at the moment. We're just trying to survive, aren't we? And we're just trying to get these hard games out the way, and hopefully, we can pick some teams up with Callum Wilson back on the team. Hopefully, we can nick points against equally poor opposition, and that's really where we are as a club, isn't it? Which is sad, but we're all just clinging on, hoping, for better times. But yeah, unfortunately that's just where we are. And yeah, that game was a nothing game, wasn't it? Which is sad.
Yeah, Shane's come up with the stat in the chat as well. He says the figure is the lowest that Opta have ever recorded in the Premier League game since they started recording it in 2003, 2004. So at least we're breaking records, Pete.
Yeah.
Well. Isn't it typical that we're breaking records for the wrong reasons? It's shocking. It really is. It's just so disappointing to see that we're playing the way that we are like this. Look, I don't normally give a man of the match. I didn't on Tuesday, but I will give it to Darlow, and the reason being is because he's made 3 fantastic saves. It could have been a hell of a lot worse today. And you know what? In my opinion, I think he's probably one of the best players on the pitch. I don't think Man City played very well. I don't think they were fluid. I don't think De Bruyne or Sterling or Aguero or Torres were even in first gear. That's how bad it was overall. But I tell you what, Cole Darlow kept us in the game, made some fantastic point-blank saves, and I think he deserves it. I think he deserves it from both teams, if I'm honest. So I definitely give it to him. But look, does those Bruce comments surprise me? Because I saw them before Martin said them on air. I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised he said it. Look, I go back to the point that I've made many times before. He's going to scratch and claw as long as he can to stay in this job. He'll probably retire after he finishes with this, and he's got to try and put a positive slant on anything now because he knows the criticism is bang at his door at the moment. and he's going to try and sway it and swing it however he wants. Now, what he doesn't realise is the comments that he made before the game have already kicked up a storm with a lot of the local media. They're all on Twitter talking about the comments that he made about the histrionics and all the rest of it. And you know, the fans are already up in arms about it. They're already kicking off. So whatever we could say after the game means absolutely nothing, because everyone's now talking about what he said before the game. And if anything, it's going to put more of the fans on his back, even more so than they were before. So look, we're going through the same cycle that we went through before Christmas last year, where we had an awful Christmas period where we lost games and lost games heavily against probably lesser teams. But again, we hoped and prayed that the teams below us dropped points. And like Chris has just said, that's exactly what they've done today and are likely to do over the weekend. So it does then become a nothing game. It's a game where we've not really lost anything. So then it doesn't hit Steve Bruce as hard as what it should do, results like this. And it'll probably be the same for Liverpool, because looking at some of the fixtures, some of those teams down there play each other or are playing teams that they're likely to get beaten against. And again, the Liverpool game will probably mean nothing. And it's only really when you get into the Leicester and the Sheffield United game where really it starts to pick up, where those points will start to, or lack of points, should I say, will start to mean something. So, you know, it is what it is right now. We did the same last season where we relied heavily on other teams dropping points rather than us gaining points, and we'll be in exactly the same position this year. We're just hoping that there's 3 worse teams than us in the Premier League, and that's just where we are right now.
Yep, it's a tragic state of affairs, but it's Newcastle United. It's our club, and that's what we've got to continue to support. But yeah, I've pressed pause on the Steve Bruce interview, so I'm going to go off and enjoy that now, lads, with a couple of whiskey chasers. Just want to thank Al Walid, Shane, Martin, Nathan, Chris, Pete, and of course Chris, who we hope hasn't fallen off a stool or something, or he just disappeared off the scene, and God knows where he's gone. Let's hope he's all right. But lads, been an absolute pleasure. I'll let you get back to your families and that, and I look forward to seeing you all for the Liverpool game on the 30th. Take care, lads. Good night.
Take care, guys.
See you guys.
And don't forget, we are promoting our own little campaign, Think Before You Tweet.